What's up and welcome back to another unboxing review with GizmoSlipTech. Today we have the Lenovo Legion Pro 5. This thing is an incredible value, I think, compared to many other laptops out this year so far, especially if you take advantage of the coupon code and link in the description, because that gives you like about $130 off of the sticker price. Sticker price on this is $15.99. I managed to buy it for $14.69 utilizing the extra 5 coupon code plus the link in the description. So just know that if you take advantage of the links in the description, that's how you get the price that's in the thumbnail at $14.69. There may be more sales that'll bring the price actually even a little lower. Maybe the sale that's currently going on is going to go away. You never know what's going to happen with the Lenovo laptops, and especially with their website, because sometimes, you know, the coupon codes come and go, right? So that said, if you want to keep up to date with the coupon codes and what's going on with the Legion laptops, we're going to be putting those sales up on the website here, this gaming laptop ranked list. And I'm going to keep updating this and keep adding more and more information in here. But all of the laptops that you can possibly buy for 2023 is right here on this list. So be sure to go check this out. If you want to do a lot of comparison shopping, see what other RTX 4000 series laptops there are, as well as what sales are currently going on in the market out there, right? So I don't know why the update hasn't gone out, but I've tried updating this a couple times today already. But we're working through some bugs right now in Lithium, but it's still been I've been very grateful for the Lithium tool. Shout out to Mark. He's an awesome guy. He helps run this website and is creating it. But if you are interested in these laptops, all you have to do is click the little expansion button and you get more details about the laptop, including specs, the price. Links on where to buy will be located in the bottom right here. Near the bottom, technical specs, as well as the links to where you can buy them based on the country that you're in. And yeah, so I am really excited to check out this Legion Pro 5, mainly because of just the tremendous value that this laptop offers at the price point. I think currently the best priced laptops for the most bang for the buck are some of the RTX 4070 laptops that are right around $1,500. I know there was an Omen 17 that went on sale last week for about just like $1,520, I think, and it had a QHD display, RTX 4070 full TDP, a really nice loadout on that machine. This one's also very compelling, the Legion Pro 5, because you get the 16 gigs of RAM, a 1 terabyte SSD, QHD display on this guy, and of course you get the new Ryzen 7 7745HX, which is basically like one half of the Ryzen 9 7945HX. So this has 8 cores, 16 threads, but it's the new Dragon range basically of the processor lineup. So it's got the same high performance focused CPU architecture. So it should be able to push really high clock speeds and push very good gaming performance as well, which we're going to find out today. This will be the first time testing this new CPU lineup from AMD this year. So I'm going to try to do a like i7, probably 13700HX versus this Ryzen 7 7745HX CPU, basically benchmark comparison in an upcoming live stream benchmark test. So be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on that video. Now, popping into chat, let's see. What's up, Phantom, Martin, Courage, Harshad? Welcome to the live stream. I'm really excited, primarily because of the feature spec this offers, the performance it offers for the money, as well as like it's a very nice, still fairly portable package. It's certainly in the more performance, high performance focused laptops because it is thicker. It's about an inch thick, or maybe even a little more than an inch thick, but it's still very portable. Minimal bezel around the display, you'll see it, and it's got a pretty dang good port selection as well. So without further ado, let's compare how this Legion Pro 5 stacks up to a bunch of the competition. I've went ahead and selected a bunch of laptops from the laptop list here. And this is going to give us a brief rundown of what laptops you could consider if you're interested in maybe say laptops that are really competitive in terms of performance for your money, or maybe if you want something a little bit more portable but still is fairly competitive with your performance for your money. This is certainly more of a budget oriented ish, like mid-range right here at $1,469, under $1,500. To me, like right in the center of mid-range. In terms of pricing, if you're under $1,200, I think you're in the more budget area. Above $1,200 to $1,700, you're in the like mid-range, and then above $1,800, you're starting to get into the more premium laptops. So this is the Strix G16. This is a very compelling gaming laptop for a number of reasons. Probably the biggest reason that it's very interesting is because it's got an i9-13980HX CPU, which is going to be the most powerful CPU that you can get for $1,600. That is phenomenal CPU performance. If you're a user that needs to have very high CPU performance for productivity, video editing, compiling things, whatever you're doing for work, or you just really want a future-proof CPU, this is like arguably one of the best CPUs, if not the best, for a lot of the different tasks out there. And at $1,599, it's the most CPU chops you can get for the money, or very close to. And then, of course, you get the beautiful QHD Plus 240 Hz 500 nits display from Asus, but it's only got an RTX 4050. So that's kind of a trade-off. You're getting CPU performance, but less GPU performance for the money. You have the Omen 17. This is the one that was on sale, or very similar to this, was on sale for a little bit over $1,500 last week. You can see the normal price is $1,949. So if you missed that sale, maybe it'll come back again at some point. But this thing is going to be, when it was on that sale price, it was probably one of the very best bang for the bucks that you can get. Now, the nice thing about this is got the HX processor, the i7, which allows you to undervolt. And then, of course, the RTX 4070 is going to be a bit more powerful than the 4060 that we have in this Legion Pro 5. Legion Pro 5, yeah. It's the naming scheme is so weird because they switched the 5 Pro and Pro 5 backwards. Anyway, then we have the Zephyrus G14. This is going to be a portability-focused machine that's in a similar ballpark, costs a little bit more than the Pro 5, but it's going to be super thin, super portable. I did a live stream unboxing of this yesterday, but I was very impressed with it overall. You have the Stealth 14 as well. I emphasize Stealth 14 if you're looking for portability. Those are the two main ones right now a lot of people are looking at. There's a couple other ones to consider, but certainly a different type of device, but I'm just pointing it out so people who are maybe not familiar with very many gaming laptops, you have like that thin and portable option for you. Then the Zephyrus G16 is another very similar to the G14, but it's got a bigger display and is also focused on portability at the expense of a little bit of performance. Now, the big difference between the Legion Pro 5 and the Zephyrus G16 is that you only have a Full HD Plus display. Full HD Plus is lower resolution. It's going to be easier to push out those frames, and it's not going to be too noticeable in a 16-inch or smaller display, especially a 14-inch display. I think Full HD Plus makes a lot of sense. 16-inch, depending on your eyesight, it'll be noticeable or not. But when you're dealing with lower VRAM, like in all of the RTX 4050, 4060, and 4070 laptop GPUs, you only have 8 gigs of VRAM. You're going to run into VRAM limitations more quickly at QHD or 4K resolutions. So I like the Zephyrus G16 in terms of its performance and it's kind of its bang for the buck. It's going to be really good. The MSI Pulse 15, I also did a review on this one. It's a very nice display. Right now it's on sale for $1,469, so the exact same price as the Legion Pro 5 right now. This RTX 4060 is supposed to go up to 140 watt, but it didn't actually get up to 140 watt basically ever during our test, maybe for a short blip here and there, but for the most part, it was much lower than that. And that's one of the big questions I have about the Legion Pro 5. What's the actual real wattage that we're going to get on it? All right. Zeskimo asks, would you take this gen or the previous gen? That's going to entirely depend on what you're looking for in a laptop, what feature set you're trying to get. At $1,500, you also have the option of looking for something like an RTX 3080 that has 16 gigs of VRAM. That's going to be more future-proofed in terms of VRAM and texturing. in gameplay, whereas the if you go with the new RTX 4000 series, you're going to have that frame generation technology built into the Ada Lovelace architecture. Those are good, like basically two entirely different focuses on future proofing. That said, the RTX 3070 and 3070 Ti and 3080, all of those can be very good values and bangs for the buck. If you do decide to go for an RTX 3000 series, I do have a number of them on sale here. Like we have the Acer Predator Helios with a 3070 Ti, and it's got a QHD display at $1399. That's a really overall pretty dang good deal for $1399. It doesn't have frame gen. That's the main downside. And you're still going to run into some VRAM limitations, but it's still a very good like raw performance for your money. It's there. Like it's good. It's just, if you're a single player gamer that mainly plays AAA games, I think frame generation is going to be very important technology to try to get. More important than say even raw performance necessarily, just because frame generation is going to make your gameplay incredibly smoother for those AAA games. Like games like Hogwarts become playable with frame gen with a 4060, where on the same settings, it probably will not be playable on a 3070 Ti and not even remotely playable. So that's the power of frame gen. Not all games have frame gen, but I think more and more games will incorporate it. But all of these middle and lower tier graphics cards are going to run into VRAM limitations unless you go for something like the RTX 3080 that has like 16 gigs of VRAM. We have seen some of those on sale for like 1500, 1600 here and there. Now, next up, we have the Acer Predator Helios 16 with an i7-13700HX, RTX 4060, 16 gigs of DDR5, 1 terabyte SSD, and a QHD 165Hz 500 nit display for $1569. This is a pretty tempting offer as well, and is very competitive with this guy. You're going Intel though instead of Ryzen for your processor, and that comes with a number of pros and cons. And it kind of depends on whether you kind of like the Legion lineup a little bit more or the Helios lineup, but I would say in terms of bang for your buck, the Legion Pro 5 is still probably a little better, simply because it's $100 cheaper. The Aorus 15 i7-13700H, RTX 4060, supposed to go up to 140 watt. Again, we'll have to actually test that out. 1 terabyte SSD, 16 gigs of DDR5, and a QHD 165Hz display for $1549. So another Intel option that should be very competitive with this laptop. There's a lot of really competitive laptops right now with the Legion Pro 5. It's just right now the Legion Pro 5's got the QHD display, it's got a good GPU, it's got a good processor, a good amount of RAM, good SSD size, and it's under $1,500, where a lot of these other deals are just a little over $1,500, which I think really can make the Legion Pro 5 a bit more attractive to some people out there, right? So again, there's a link in the description to this Legion Pro 5. You can also find the link on my sheet here, and you can just, the link's here on the bottom. And if we go over to this link, right? We have the Legion Pro 5. It's Gen 8. We've got a 16-inch with RTX 4060. They take right now $80 off, and you get that puts you down to $1519. And when you add this to cart, you can use the coupon. I believe it's extra 5 is what I used. So right now, interesting. We got to go through these little things here, and then now we can try to use the coupon code. It's already done gaming extra 5. Can I just do extra 5? Okay, it's the same. So right now it looks like $1519. I think there must have been another coupon I was able to use. But it's interesting because it says $1664.99 now, but I paid $1469 for mine. So I think Lenovo may have bumped the price up by about $65 between when I bought it and now in terms of your ordering, which is interesting. But I have to do some looking around. I didn't do looking around right now, but there may be other coupons you can pair with this sometimes that pop up. So it's important when you're looking for Lenovo laptops and you're considering buying directly from Lenovo to look for those coupons, because oftentimes you can get 5 to 10% extra off if you just do some Google searching and just try to slap in some coupon codes in there. Anyway, so let's go ahead, and I think we're ready. That's a good overview of a lot of the competition. I think in terms of attractiveness, this is one of the top laptops under 1500, assuming it actually delivers really great performance with that Ryzen 7 chip. All right, so checking chat, and we'll get the unboxing underway. So popping into chat here. All right, Martin says, hey Brandon, what laptop sounds similar to the Blade 18? I need a good sounding laptop. Well, I don't think any of the gaming laptops match the Blade 18 in terms of sound quality, but you can check out my speaker test that I did recently. Yeah, I think the Blade 18 is probably the only one so far, but I haven't tested all of them yet either, right? Because I haven't tested the Acer Predator Helios. I haven't tested the Lenovo Pro 7i, which just came in today. So I'll be doing that review very soon. Yeah. Okay. All right. Are you going to review the Strix G16 with the 4080? I may, Osama. We'll see. I've got a lot of laptops I want to review. I want to keep reviewing them, keep pumping out this content, because I know you guys, it really helps you make decisions on what laptop's the best one. And that's my goal, is to be as helpful as possible. So if you guys enjoy these live streams, if you enjoy these reviews, the unboxing reviews, all these comparisons, all these detailed tests, please drop a like on the live stream and consider subscribing so you don't miss out on future content. And thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. All of your support has been absolutely incredible this year. Honestly, I did not think the channel could take off as much as it has. Some of these live streams now have passed over 1 million views on like the Zephyrus G16 live stream. It blows me away that so many people are watching the channel, and I'm just so grateful. So thank you guys so much. Let's get into the live stream, or let's get into the unboxing officially, and see what's in the box here. So I have gone ahead and I have already installed all of the drivers and games that we'll be testing today. If I go ahead and pop this up, you can see we got the Legion name there. On this side, I've just got a bunch of shipping labels and everything, which I've already blocked out. So I'm not going to really show that part, but this is the external box that this laptop shipped in directly from Lenovo. I did pay for this laptop with my own money, and if you're interested in buying it for 10% off of what I paid for it, then please consider becoming a member, joining the laptop review unit resale program. And I don't know why the music started behind me, but okay. Anyway, so what you want to do is, if you want to consider buying this laptop from me, then join the laptop review resale program. You'll get 10% off of what I paid for this laptop, including sales tax. And so you'll pay less for sure, 10% less than what you would pay if you were bought it yourself, at least in the United States. And when I get done reviewing it, then I would ship it out to you, sign the bottom of it. And I currently have about 12 laptops or so that are for sale through that reseller program. People were not as interested in it for the full price, and so I've knocked 10% off of that resale program just to make it more attractive, because I know the laptops are used a little bit, but they're basically brand new, because I just open them, test them, install stuff for a little while, and then test them on the live stream, and then put them back in their boxes. So they're basically brand new, not like a typical used laptop. And if there is any damage to them, I will always try to tell you and let you know. Okay. Please test the Aorus 17H. That's true. How's the Titan GT77? Good question. So just taking a look at the power brick here. We're talking about a lot of different topics here. Let's focus in on the unboxing. Let's focus on the unboxing here for a little bit. Okay, so the box, the actual power brick here, it does come with a plastic shroud on it, and we can go ahead and take this plastic shroud off. right now. And you can see right here, it is a 300 watt power brick. It's fairly thin and it's a bit wide, but I like the thin profile. It makes it easy to pack into smaller backpacks and to take with you. That said, it is still fairly heavy. It's not a lightweight one, but yeah, it's a 300 watt power brick. And if we open up this Velcro, so you got a nice little carry Velcro if you want to make the cable be more portable. If we hold it out, we can see that it is about a 6-foot cable coming off of the power brick, which is perfect. I like that. And then we also have the power cable itself, which is also about 6 feet long. So the fact that we have two 6-foot lengths on this power adapter gives us a total of about a 12-foot length from the wall outlet, which is better than average. Most laptops only have about a 10-foot reach. So that's already some nice points for Lenovo. Now, here is some documents that come with the Lenovo Legion. So inside of here, we've got, I guess, there it is, okay. So get started, plug the laptop in. And it looks like we've got, looks like it's not in English. But they've got all of the different USB-A types. So USB 3.2 Gen 1, USB 3.2 Gen 1, USB-C, RJ45, HDMI. They tell you basically about each of the ports on here. And here's something very important. If you use the FN plus Q button, you can change the different power modes of the Legion laptop, which is great. You can also use FN plus R to change the refresh rate of the display. So you can go down to 60 Hertz for battery life, improved battery life, or jump up to 165 or 240 Hertz. And I'm not sure if this laptop has 165 Hertz or 240 Hertz yet. We'll find out. You can also control the backlight on the keyboard using the space bar. And it actually rotates between the different backlight modes, and I'll show you how to configure and adjust your backlight zones on this laptop. I did test that to make sure I understood how that worked. Safety information packet, we don't really need to look at that. You do also get this, a little advertisement for the warranty service. They want you to upgrade the warranty to like the ultimate warranty or to get an extended warranty. I did have a Lenovo Legion 7i, and that one did need warranty service at one point. I was able to call them. They quickly answered the phone, and the person I talked to knew what they were doing. So that was a giant thumbs up for me in terms of warranty support. But I've also heard some bad reports about Lenovo's service too. So it's going to be a mixed bag, I think, just like every laptop manufacturer. But at least they've got a phone number you can dial. And I've also heard good things too about them because they sometimes do on-site support depending on which warranty service you upgrade to. So you can see that the laptop comes with these foam padding along with a plastic wrap around the laptop itself. So there's the Legion Pro 5 right there. And this thing is just, it's a clean looking laptop, and it looks, I think, a little bit more premium than some of the other laptops in this price range, especially a bit more of a premium build quality compared to, say, like the MSI Pulse 15 maybe. I think it's very comparable to the Zephyrus series. That said, I believe this is a metal top lid. I'm not sure which parts of this are metal. This might... Is it all metal? This feels like it could be metal all the way around. And maybe some plastic on the sides here. Certainly rubber on for the bottom feet. But taking a look at the bottom here, you can see that we've got these air intakes all along the bottom here. This is going to allow a lot of air. We have a very high powered system. We saw that we had a 300 watt power brick included with an RTX 4060. That's typically not included on a 4060. 4060s don't usually need that many watts. All right, so that's nice to see. That said, we have these big, nice rubber feet. You got two in the front and a big long one along the back. That's going to provide nice stability when it's on a table. When we go ahead and lift the laptop up, let's go ahead and push these in here. And we can set this off to the side now. Let's go ahead and lift the lid up, and you can open it with one finger, which is nice. You've got a little microfiber cloth, though this doesn't feel quite, it's almost like a papery cloth. I don't think it's actually a microfiber cloth, but it has a similar texture, which is going to protect the fit and finish of the laptop. I love the keyboard layout on the Legion series. It's one of my favorite keyboard layouts, and it's one of the reasons why I did pick the Legion Pro 7i for a long time to be my own laptop the last couple of years before I ended up switching out. It's got a nice deep keyboard feel. The keyboard's like the actual keys have nice key response. It's not mechanical though. And it does also have a really great number pad layout with this full-size number pad. Easy to read. Very important distinction between the Legion Pro 5 and the Pro 7i is that this is not a per key RGB keyboard. This is a 4-zone backlit keyboard. It does allow you to customize the colors of each zone, but you cannot do individual key customizations or the really cool animations you get on the Pro 7i, like the rotating ones. Those are just not available on the Legion Pro 5. And I believe there's also no light bar in the front. You can see there's no light bar in the front here. It's just blank. So you're definitely getting a lot less of the RGB focus, and it's just focused on trying to deliver as much performance for your money as possible in the Legion Pro 5. So that's kind of a brief overview. The touchpad does feel good. I did notice some driver issues with the touchpad, not registering some clicks for some reason. Not too big of a deal. Anyway, am I going to test the Lenovo LOQ? Yes, I do plan on testing that soon. That's one of the laptops I plan on buying very soon. What games am I going to test on it now? Well, we've got the new Jedi Survivor from EA. I did buy and download that, so we're going to be testing that. We're also going to test Last of Us Part 1, God of War, Apex Legends, Timespy, Cinebench, of course, and a bunch of other games. Dying Light 2. We've got at least 10 games we're going to test today. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 and CSGO. I believe that's almost all the games that we're going to do today, but there might be a couple other ones. Okay, so let's go ahead and take the bottom off. Let's see how hard it is to take the bottom off and take a look at the internals. I have not done this yet, so this is going to be an interesting adventure. Taking apart the Legion 7i that I had was not too bad, but it was also not the easiest one to get in and out of, so... how are the Titan and GE78HX? MSI has fixed the GE78HX and they have already shipped it back to me. So I have not picked it up yet, though. It apparently didn't get delivered to my door and they have it at the UPS store or something. I don't know. It might have actually already been sent back to MSI because I don't know what happened with the shipping, but I think the shipping got messed up. But the GE78HX, all it needed was a specialized tool that lets you access the motherboard and reflash the BIOS, basically. And it was the reason why the BIOS update failed was because I had undervolting enabled. Even though I had my undervolts set to 0, it still apparently crashed the BIOS. So that's why they said that it crashed when they looked at the crash log or whatever. And so they have updated the MSI BIOS update procedures so that people are required to, or basically they're supposed to reset all of the factory defaults before running the BIOS update. That's the key. You got to set all of the factory defaults to 0 or to just complete default. Do a total reset, and then you have to reset up the BIOS anytime you do the update to whatever settings you wanted. So it kind of sucks in that sense. That's sometimes it takes a long time to set up your BIOS, so you probably want to save or take screenshots or pictures of all your BIOS settings before you revert it back to defaults. So especially if you spend a long time dialing in the perfect undervolt or overclock. All right, so we've got, I think, all of the screws out now. All right. I wish Lenovo did a pop-up screw like Asus does, because sometimes it can be difficult to get into these Lenovo laptops. So let's go ahead and try to get into this thing. All right, so I'm going to grab a guitar pick and a blue pick here. You're asking about, Zeskimo is asking about fingerprints. Let's do a quick fingerprint test. It's not really picking up much fingerprints, but I kind of see them a little bit. You see a little bit of fingerprint right there, but it's pretty minor. Like, I definitely have a little bit of oily hands right now, or fingers. And yeah, they're definitely, you can definitely get some of them there, but it's not nearly as painstakingly obvious as some laptops. So it's kind of a mixed bag, I think, for fingerprints right now. Okay, so we're trying to get in here. So I'm going to pop it open with a toothpick initially, then I'm going to kind of do a little pry action with this guy. There we go. Beautiful. We're going to go across with the toothpick. I'm not sure. I don't think you can see that. All right, so I just went across with the toothpick after the initial pry. And we're just going to keep taking this toothpick all the way across. Sorry, not toothpick, guitar pick. That's a big toothpick. If that was a toothpick. But it's popping up quite nicely. I do like that. Also, this backside no longer latches, it looks like. It actually disconnects entirely from the underside of the panel, which is a lot easier than the Legion 7i. So that makes it a little bit easier to get in here. I like that. Okay, so I think we're fully up now. So let me go ahead and just make sure. Do we have... Feels like there might be another screw. Okay, there it goes. There must have been some plastic latch that was still latched or something. So, okay. Harambe, I've not watched Jared's video on the low-end 40 series. I did see it come up, but I haven't watched it yet. Okay. So, here we are. Here's the internals. All right, so we have ourselves an 80 watt-hour battery. So it's a fairly large battery, close, you know, you can get up to 99 watt-hours at the high end. All right, we've got ourselves some huge fat heat pipes right here. One shared heat pipe that goes through both the GPU and the CPU. We've also got these heat plates that are designed to grab heat away from the VRMs. And we got this one as well. This other heat pipe that's dedicated, goes all the way around for both of these fan exhausts. Then you also have another dedicated heat pipe just to the GPU here. So considering that we're only supposed to be doing 140 watts to the GPU, I feel like this is super overkill. So that's good. I'm assuming we're going to get phenomenal temperatures on this laptop because of this like just really, really strong cooling solution that they've got set up for the GPU. Now the CPU, because it has this heat pipe that goes across both the CPU and GPU, then it's going to be able to leverage at least 3 of the fan exhausts for that CPU, as well as both of the fans being leveraged. And these fans are fairly beefy and big and should push a lot of air for us. Now we have our memory shroud right here. And I'm not going to worry about taking that off right now. We do also have our 2 M.2 slot covers right here. And so if you're looking to upgrade your memory or your RAM, if you're looking to upgrade your SSDs, you're going to need to take off these RAM cover or these little metal shrouds right here, and then you'll be able to pop in a second SSD or remove the existing 1 terabyte SSD and pop in another one, right? So you can upgrade both of them right here and right here. Now, overall, this interior layout is, I think, effective. It provides a good amount of upgradability because you can access the RAM fairly easily. You can upgrade 2 SSDs. I believe this is going to be the Wi-Fi slot right here if you wanted to upgrade your Wi-Fi. And in terms of ease of access, this was fairly easy to remove the bottom, which I really liked that. And it wasn't too convoluted getting it to pop up. Some of these laptops take, an extra 10, 15 minutes, which can kind of be a pain in the butt. And this laptop wasn't a pain in the butt, which is great. I think most people would be able to get into this laptop fairly well, as long as they have something like a little guitar pick to pry the laptop apart. Don't use metal to pry the laptop apart. Very important. Now, let's go ahead and put this thing back together. And we will move on to our CPU testing. Looks like we got this backwards. There we go. All right, so we're going to gently kind of push down. Let's get this thing to pop back together all the way around. Yeah, and it does pop in right here in the middle, by the way. So definitely you want to make sure that's popped in. And when you're removing the bottom, there is no screw here in the middle. It is just a pop in, like a little plastic pop in or something. All right, so I'm pretty confident that we are fully popped in. It was very easy to pop back together, which is a very good thing. Okay. Ryzen says, I bought a Blade 14 2021 3080 instead of an RTX 4060. And it was cheaper. I hope I did well. Well, the great thing about that 3080 you got is that it's got 16 gigs of VRAM. So you're not going to be limited in terms of how much textures you can run. Certain games, especially a lot of modern games, are starting to really push past 8 gigs of VRAM, especially at QHD. If you do get this Legion Pro 5, you got to keep in mind that you're going to need to run textures on low or medium in some of the more demanding games, or potentially run, lower DLSS resolution for the render resolution, or potentially actually just fully drop your resolution down to like full HD instead of QHD for certain titles. 8 gigs of VRAM, I would say, is enough for full HD gaming pretty consistently. But not for QHD. It's definitely going to be a challenge for people that decide to buy a QHD laptop with only 8 gigs of VRAM. Oh, the 3080 on the Razer is only 8 gigs of VRAM? Really? Oh, that's too bad. Yeah, some 3080s only have 8 gigs of VRAM, which is not ideal. If that is the case, then that kind of sucks. But there was very few 3080s that only had 8 gigs, but there are some. I'm not sure off the top of my head. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so that's the removing the laptop, taking it apart. Let's boot it up. I'll show you the Lenovo software, show you how I configure this guy. We'll take a look at the keyboard, the trackpad, and then we'll get into some benchmarking. We'll test the speakers, do our display test, all that goodness. All right, so there is the keyboard. It's already starting to light up. Let's go ahead and turn these lights off so you can see the keyboard backlight, and we'll go through all the backlight keyboard configurations. All right, so I'm going to go ahead. There we go. All right, so here is the keyboard. You can see it's quite a nice backlight on the keyboard, but I would say it's not as bright or as vibrant in terms of color as what the Pro 7i would be. If you'd go into the Lenovo Vantage software right here, this is the main dashboard. You scroll down, and then here's the Legion Spectrum, which is where you go to customize your keyboard colors. You click Customize, and then you can turn the keyboard off. Profile 1, Profile 2, Profile 3. This is kind of nice. In order to switch the profiles, you can just press FN and the space bar, and it'll jump between all 3 of the profiles quickly and easily. So if there's like scenarios where you want an all-white keyboard like this, you can set this as one of the profiles. You can have it set to go off. You can have profile 1 be a wave. Unfortunately, the wave that they have, this is a criticism I have right now of the keyboard. It shuts off the keyboard, like it shows the wave and then it shuts off the keyboard. It goes up, goes bright, and then it gets dimmer. I don't like that. I much prefer it to be a consistently bright environment so you can see the keys and they stay lit up while you're typing. So I dislike the wave, the animation that they have set up on this, but you can't do anything about that really. If we go to profile 2, this is the static. This is where I have set up 4 different colors in the 4 different zones, and this does not move or change. You can adjust the brightness down or up on this, but it's not going to change much, right? And then on profile 3, right now I have it set to static and to be white. So this would be kind of your business environment. Meeting, you could just set this up so that it just goes to pure white and there's no RGB on the laptop anywhere. So going into the software, I'll show you how to configure this. There we go. All right, so obviously you can click on off and it turns it off. Profile 1, you have these options: static, breath, smooth, wave right, and wave left. That's it. You got 5 different options. Obviously static sets it to 1 color. Breathing will just activate the light and then dim the light and then activate the light and then dim the light. And then if you go to smooth, smooth is pretty cool. Smooth will gradually shift the colors on the whole keyboard from one color to the next. And you can change the speed at which it changes the colors to make it change color faster or slower, and you can up and down the brightness a little bit. And then you got wave right and you got wave left, and you can see what it does. I just don't think that this is a very good wave animation. It's not particularly awesome. So if I were to keep this laptop, I'd probably just keep it on like this profile, like where it's like static, but I can set the colors of each zone to look like a different kind of a rainbow color or whatever. Or in certain business environments, I would set it just to be all white probably. But that's the customization for the RGB, and it worked well and it worked consistently. And you can switch between these profiles just with the FN and spacebar key. Now the touchpad, it just happened right there. I don't know if you saw it, but I tapped the mouse pad and it actually did not click. I don't know why, but like it seems like a decent portion of my clicks. I just did it again. Let me zoom out a little so you can see, and I'll turn these lights back on. All right, so I'll scoot it back. So if I click in the middle of the touchpad, sometimes the click happens and sometimes the click doesn't happen. It just didn't happen again. The physical click goes off, but it doesn't actually click inside of Windows for some reason. See, I did it again, click. It did it again, didn't register. Did it again. So it seems like every like 4th click, it just doesn't register the click. When I'm physically pressing it down, it's one of the only bugs that I've had using the system so far. So instead, what I've resorted to on this is just tapping my finger, just doing finger taps, because that is very consistent. You can see it jumps back and forth, no problem, when I'm tapping on the, just using the tap rather than the click. So, and that may be just this touchpad is being a little buggy, or it might be a driver issue that affects a lot of the Legion Pro 5s. But it was something that I noticed that was a bit annoying, and it was immediately apparent to me when using the laptop. So typically speaking, laptops don't have this issue. So Brian says, upgrade the BIOS. I did update the BIOS already. We're on the latest BIOS. So let me go ahead and get this thing plugged in. All right. Turbo Man. Yeah, the 300-watt charger is fairly large. I showed this earlier in the live stream. It's thin. It's the same charger that I got on my Legion Pro 7i a while ago. Let's go over the ports here while we're at it. One thing I do want to mention while we were talking about the touchpad is that I do like the texture and the feel of the touchpad. I kind of wish it was just maybe a little bit bigger vertically, but overall it's just about the right size and it feels good to use. Like it feels like a premium, good quality touchpad. Now on the left side, let me go ahead and get the light here. And we'll try to focus it. There we go. On the left side, we have a USB-C and a USB-A 3.2. I believe both of those are 3.2s. We got our power adapter, 2 more USB-As, HDMI 2.1, USB-C, and then we have another Ethernet port. It's on the downward facing with the clicker, which is a little bit of a bummer. Wish it was flipped upside down right there. And then on the right side, we have our USB-A, our power indicator light, and then our webcam on-off switch that disables our webcam. So if you want to ensure that you have privacy, you can use that. And then on the right side, we also have our headset port, which is a bit different. Usually this is included on the left side of the laptop to keep it away from your mouse hand because most people are right-handed. So it's a little bit weird. This is one of the first laptops this year that has had it on the right side, which is quite a bit different. Now, there is 4 fan exhausts. You've got fan exhaust here on the right, 2 on the back, and another one here on the left. So there's a lot of fan exhaust, and you're gonna wanna make sure that you keep those areas clear because it's gonna put out a lot of heat when you're playing games. All right, so we are ready to do our speaker test and display test. Let's go ahead and do the speaker test next. All right. And I'm going to just get this set up. There we go. All right, let's go ahead and back up. Is the deck plastic? I don't know. I can't tell. It feels like it's probably metal. This whole thing feels like a metal laptop, or mostly metal with plastic trims. Like I think it's a plastic trim around the edge of the display. It looks like the hinges here might be plastic covers. And it looks like the edges around the laptop here might be plastic as well. But it feels like the top deck, the keyboard deck, and the bottom of the laptop are metal. If I were to be guessing. I wish I should have probably looked it up a little bit more clearly on the website. You know what? We can go ahead and do that right now. I want to make sure that I can give you guys all the information that you need. So let's see if it says anywhere. So we're going to go to the technical specs page. And this is, I guess, Ultrabook. Let's see here. So these Legion Pro 5s are part metal, lid, main deck, and plastic parts for the underside panel. Yeah, so it's like I said, it feels like a combination of metal and plastic. So Ultrabook review is usually pretty accurate on that stuff. So I'm pretty sure that is correct. All right, so let's get into the speaker test here. So this is going to be Peter Spacey Roar. And does this have any audio adjustments? I don't think so, but maybe. Checking in the Legion software here. Yeah, it's got Nahimic. Okay, so Nahimic effects are on. And we have a bass boost and treble boost right now, currently enabled. All right, so here's Peter Spacey Roar. Okay. We weren't quite at 100% volume, so I upped the volume, and here we go again. So we definitely got some mids. The overall volume is not that loud. Let's keep going. Definitely not super strong bass is what I would say. Faded Aeon, Half-Life. I feel like it did pretty well with that song. Let's go La 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 Love You by Deuce Williams. Okay, so the bass, I would say, is the weakest part. It's just not much bass to the speaker system. The volume is pretty decent, and the mids and the highs are all right. They're not super amazing, though. I'd say the speaker system's like a 7.5 probably out of 10. It's just not as loud and not as clear and not as much bass. It might even be a little lower than 7.5. Might be 7.3, somewhere in that range. So 7.3, 7.5. Yeah. Like, it's not bad, though. I've definitely had way worse speakers on laptops. So it's basically slightly just about average, a little bit above average. To me, I kind of almost do the ratings between like 5 as being very bad and 10 as being like superb. So 7.5 is basically like average, or maybe slightly below average if you're 7.3. So sweet. Now let's go ahead and go on to our display test. Display test time. All right. And there we go. Massive L says sounds underwater. Yeah, that's part of what I mean by like lower volume, not super clear, kind of muddied sounding, you know, like the audio, like the speakers are not particularly amazing. And they're like, yeah, I wouldn't say they're downright bad, but they're just certainly a lot of people, when you're spending this much, I don't think that you really expect to have like mind-blowing speakers, you know, like it's kind of normal to have mediocre speakers at this price point. Like when you start spending more than 2,000, I think that's when expectations for speaker quality go like way up. And I think it clearly shows that with their focus, Lenovo's focus was not on making this thing the most premium. Like they've removed a bunch of the premium aspects of this laptop. There's no per key RGB. The speaker system is basically reduced to be lower quality. But a lot of people, I think, won't really care about the speaker system that much because they use headphones primarily. A lot of gamers that use gaming laptops primarily use headphones, and that's okay. So like, I don't think the speakers being mediocre is going to be a deal breaker for too many people out there. But it's one of those things where you just wish it was a little better, you know? So, all right. So we're using my Spyder 5 Elite. This typically underestimates color gamut a little bit, but it does, I think, very accurately measure the nit's brightness and contrast ratio. So the only thing to really keep in mind is that the color gamut number on this tool is probably going to be a little bit lower than what some other tools would measure. Okay, so here we are. We've got the Spyder 5 Elite on there. Let's go ahead and see what we get. So this display, to my knowledge, is rated for 100% sRGB, but not for 100% Adobe RGB or P3 color gamut. but it is also supposed to be fairly bright, like closer to 500 nits brightness is my understanding. So I'm very curious to see what we get for our brightness on this thing. Courage Nosa says Lenovo needs to work on their speakers. Yeah, I would agree. Which screen is this? So we will go into the screen details, but basically it's 2560 by 1600. It's either 165 hertz or 240 hertz. I'm not sure off the top of my head. We can check here when the test is done. Okay, wow, that gets very, very dim, I gotta say, which is nice if you're gonna be using this laptop in a darker environment. But yeah, wow. I can barely see the screen now with my eyes. All right, so now we're gonna go up. Isn't the display the same as last year's Legion? I believe it is, but depending on which one you get, it's going to be 165 hertz or 240 hertz. I feel like with the Legion Pro 5, Lenovo has just fallen behind a lot of the competition out there, primarily in the color gamut sector, which is potentially the most important thing about a display. If you're a designer, graphic designer, or you just prefer playing games on a very colorful display, having a display that is lower color gamut, only 100% sRGB, is kind of a bummer, right? Like you're kind of like, it's one of the reasons why I ended up going with the Blade 18 and upgrading from the Pro 7, the Legion 7i. It's because the screen quality was such a massive upgrade going to 100% P3 color gamut with over 500 nits brightness. You know, the combination of that is just awesome for content consumption, content creation, using the laptop in outdoor environments. It's really great. Now, this screen is going to be very bright, so using it outdoors is going to be fine. But the color gamut is just not going to be as good, I believe. Let's go ahead and see where we're at. So just know that if you go with this laptop, say instead of the Asus Strix G16 or something like that, you're going to be sacrificing your color gamut, especially. That's probably the biggest thing that you're going to be giving up. So again, this color checker kind of underestimates the color gamut by, 8% or something like that. So we had 92% sRGB, 73% Adobe RGB, 73% of P3 color gamut. And so that means that really we're very close to an 100% sRGB, close to 81% Adobe and P3 color gamuts, which is, it's good. It's a good display. It's just not as premium as the higher end displays out there. And that's the trick for me about this laptop is that this one is priced excellently. Like for this display at this price point, it's a very good display. I think it's a highly rated display. It's just, when you go to something like the Pulse 15, you're getting 100% P3 color gamut. It's a more colorful display, even if it's not as bright of a display. Now, I'm going to go ahead and see what our refresh rate is. We've got 165 hertz on this display. So I just wanted to point that out. This is not the 240 hertz display. This is a 165 hertz display. All right, so let's check out our brightness and color gamut. Whoa, this is way below the advertised brightness from Lenovo. I believe it was supposed to be a 500 nits brightness, and we only got 356 for our brightness and 940:1 for our contrast ratio. Our nits brightness at 0% is only 2 nits bright. That is so dim. That's nice if you're going to work in all super dark environments a lot. That said, 356 nits is less than I thought we were going to get. I'm going to be honest with you. I thought for sure we would have more than that. Which, yeah, like it seems brighter than that. It seems brighter than 350 nits to my eyes. It seems closer to 500 nits, which is, so it's very weird to me that we're not hitting closer to 500 nits. And it makes me almost want to test it one more time just to verify that number. Because, like I said, Lenovo advertises it, I believe, as 500 nits. So let's try measuring it one more time. I'm just going to do I'm going to do it just at 100% brightness for all the tests. Have you received the Legion Pro 7i? Yes, I received it today. It was delivered today. And I'll set that up, I think, tomorrow and hopefully do a live stream with it on Friday. Martin Whedon says the 165 hertz is only rated for 300 nits. Okay, that would make more sense to me. That would make more sense to me. Like, this is clearly more than a 300 nit display, though. I can visually see that it's brighter than 300 nits, and it is measuring at like 356 nits, I think is what it was. So that's good. Thanks for clarifying that, Martin. I think that makes a lot of sense that the 165 hertz version would have a lower color or brightness, and it's the one that's being offered on the more budget system, right? So this display is basically going to be the same display or very similar display to what you're getting on like the Omen 17. It's going to be about 350 nits, 165 hertz QHD plus or QHD. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, you can see it registered it at 356 or 357 nits for all of our tests right there in a row, and 930 to 1 for our contrast ratio. So overall, for the money, for a display that's coming at you for under $1,500, that is excellent overall. Good value, I think. It's the only downside is when you compare it to something like the Pulse 15, you're not getting as high a color gamut. The Pulse 15 had a more colorful display, even if it wasn't quite, I don't know. It wasn't 16 by 10, it was 16 by 9. So I guess that was the trade-off there. But the Pulse 15 display, I think, was a little bit better for the money. Any bleed, Massive L, we're about to check that. I've got my all black screen up here now. I'm gonna turn the lights off behind me. Okay, so now we're gonna turn the lights off in front of me. All right. And here we are. Very dark environment now. And let me tilt the screen down. Wow, there's almost no backlight bleed on that screen at all. Like, the camera, when I look at the camera, it kind of looks like it's picking up a little bit in the top left corner and maybe a little bit in the bottom right corner. But to my eyes, it has, like, I'm moving my head around and I'm not seeing almost any backlight bleed. That's good. That's a very minimal to no backlight bleed on this unit. Brian says, do you think it's worth buying the extended warranty? I do. I think the Lenovo extended warranty is pretty good. And I think that if you're planning on keeping the laptop for 3 to 4 years or more, then yeah, get the extended warranty for as long as you can afford. Because yeah, you never know when a component might fail, and Lenovo doesn't charge that much for the extended warranty. I think it was like $150 or $200 for a 4-year accidental warranty when I upgraded the warranty on the Legion 7i that I bought. So I'm not sure exactly what the pricing is now, but it still tends to be cheaper than most of the warranties out there. And if you get the ultimate warranty, I believe they also do on-site service and repair. So that's really nice. Okay, so let's talk about the Lenovo Vantage software. And this is how you control your laptop. You've got a couple of bars indicating your CPU performance or whatever, your SSD. These are pretty minimal. Anyway, what you want to focus on is this thermal mode setting. This is where you can set your performance mode. All right. You can have a balanced mode. And a balanced mode, you can enable Legion AI engine to detect gameplay and tune CPU, GPU performance. And then there's also quiet mode, which is going to keep your laptop throttled down more and you make less fan noise. And then you have custom mode. And inside of custom mode, you have performance. So you can adjust your CPU, short-term power limit, long-term power limit, peak power limit, CPU temperature target, CPU long-term power limit. And then you also have your CPU, GPU dynamic boost, which is interesting. You can also set your GPU TGP. You can set it up to be 135. You can also have it be based on a temperature limit. Total processor power target in terms of total watts. And then you also have your GPU to CPU dynamic boost you can adjust. There's a lot of settings in here that you normally wouldn't have for a lot of laptops, and I have not fiddled with these settings at all. So this might warrant a whole nother live stream where we test all these settings and see what the best settings are to get the most performance out of your laptop. For today, we're going to be doing performance mode for our testing. Okay, so performance mode will be our testing performance. It should basically set us to maximum power limits and all of that. You also have this GPU overclock button, which allows you to basically do a one-click GPU overclock. And this will basically change your factory specifications of your computer. And it'll essentially just like boost your clock target for your core clock on your GPU and your memory clock. That's my understanding. I'm not sure how much it boosts it, but it'll boost it by probably like 100 or 200 on your core clock. Probably like 100, maybe 150. I'm not sure. I'm actually tempted to try it today. So you also have a GPU working mode. This does have advanced Optimus, allowing you to switch on the fly. If we hop into the NVIDIA control panel, it'll let you go to manage display mode. And then right here, you can set, I'm going to zoom in here so you can see this a little better. You can set NVIDIA GPU only mode. We'll apply that. And that's going to keep our NVIDIA GPU on permanently and not allow you to have good battery life. But it'll also make it a little bit easier when you open and close games, because when you open and close games, there's like a moment of stuttering and delay every time you open and close the game. Interesting. Did it not actually switch? I want NVIDIA GPU only mode. Yes, I want to keep these settings. Okay. All right. So there it goes. Now we're in GPU only mode. It for some reason, it failed when the first time I tried to activate it. So on the left side over here, I want to point out that there is G-Sync. So you do have G-Sync enabled on this monitor, which is really nice to see. And basically, the main things you're going to fiddle with inside of here is just going to be your display mode. If you want to be able to for sure know if you're on the integrated GPU for battery life or on your dedicated GPU, then you can switch between these. You can basically force it to go to one or the other. And then I also want to point out under our system information right here that we have a 140 watt listing for our GPU TDP. Now we're going to find out if we actually can push 140 watts to the GPU here in a few minutes. But yeah, okay. Zabalds with the $1 super chat. Thank you so much. Misery says, just got the Pro 7i Gen 8 with 4080. Hella fun. Yeah, dude, congrats, man. That's awesome. Setting GPU TGP to max, your GPU power is literally locked to max. Oh, interesting. That's cool. Yeah, Dean said that Jared made a video about high-powered 4060s not actually offering better performance over lower-powered ones. Have you found similar behavior on your end? So it just depends on how much lower power limit you're talking. And today we're also going to be finding a little bit more about that and kind of verifying that information. Because basically, in my experience, I have yet to see an RTX 4060 actually push to 140 watts in gameplay. We've yet to see that in any of the games. Before we continue on, let's get into Cinebench and find out about our CPU performance with this Ryzen 7 7745HX. This is going to be the first time ever running this benchmark on this CPU. So I'm not quite sure what to expect if we're looking at 20K If we're looking at 16K, maybe 18K, I'm hoping maybe like 18, 19K is kind of what I'm hoping. But we'll find out here. Let's go ahead and I want to run. Let's go in here. Let's open Process Lasso and get that installed real quick. And we'll get the Cinebench window focused with above priority. CPU priority above normal. There we go. All right. So we're going to stop this. We're going to go advanced. We're going to take off 10 minutes and we'll run it. All right. And I'm going to shut this down as well. There we go. All right. Zabald says, do you benefit if you use the link from your Listium? I'm looking forward to buying the Legion 7i 4090. Will you review after confirming temps and performance? Yeah, so if you use the link in the description down below or on the Listium page and you use it with a browser that lets you track cookies, like for example, a lot of the browsers these days don't allow tracking cookies, you know? So if you use a browser like Google Chrome, and you click through the link, it should show that in the top in the URL, it should show you that like, oh, this is the GizmoSlipTech tracking on it, and it should then benefit me. But if you use one that blocks cookie tracking, you won't. I won't get any benefit. So we got 17,901. Wow, that's basically right in the ballpark of what I was thinking. A little bit lower than I was kind of hoping, but still, that's pretty good, especially for only 8 cores, 16 threads. Oh, I got to zoom out a little bit here, guys. Sorry about that. So Z-Balls, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. I really appreciate it. We can let that run in the background. Let's go ahead and get HW info. And I also got to prop up. I need to go ahead and prop up the back of this laptop. Just know that right now, this test isn't really a valid test because we got a bunch of stuff running. There we go. Because I'm like opening and closing applications and modifying stuff. I'm just kind of letting it run so we can kind of thermally saturate it a little bit. Yeah, thanks, Z-Balls. I really appreciate you going out of your way to ask about how you can support me as a creator. That means a lot, man. Thanks. And thanks so much again for the super chat. All right. Okay, so here we are. Let's open this up. Let's see where we're at. So, there we go. So right now we've got an all-core boost of 4.8 gigahertz. Basically 4.79, 4.81 gigahertz across all of the cores, which is excellent. You know, we've got 8 big fat cores, no efficiency cores, 16 total threads, and for an 8 core part, we're pushing some really good performance. Yeah, so I'm seeing some really good performance now. Let's take a look at our temperatures. Oof, our temperatures are very spicy right at 100 degrees. Smack dab at the 100 degree mark. Looks like we maxed out at 95 watts at the peak there. So 17,000.8. I'm curious to see what we get now in a 10-minute test. Looks like we're getting right around 17,800 in these little short runs. Let's go ahead and go for a 10-minute test, and we will reset our stats as well. All right, so 4.81 gigahertz. Instantly hitting 100 degrees Celsius. Interesting. Our core temps are actually, looks like only one of the cores is hitting the 100 degrees. So it looks like core 7 is 99.9 degrees Celsius, 100 degrees. And the rest of the cores, oh no, we got core 5 also. Core 7 and core 5. Both of those are close to 100 degrees. So to me, that tells me that we're likely looking at a bad CPU pace job, or at least a mediocre CPU pace job, at least in this unit. And because the other cores are only in like the 80, like that one's 78 degrees on core 0, 87 on core 1, 87 on core 2, 95 on core 3, and then 99 and 99 on core 5 and 7. So that's a little too bad in that sense. That said, we're also pushing 85 watts of power through that CPU on a consistent basis, though we were doing 96.7 watts at the peak. So it's interesting to see and a little disappointing to see this. So if I bought this laptop, I would do one of two things. I would either return it or I would repaste the CPU myself to improve the CPU performance and temperatures. Because most likely what's going on when I say it has a bad CPU paste is they probably either didn't put enough CPU paste on there, or the CPU paste didn't quite spread evenly, and part of the CPU just is not covered with the paste. So the side where core 5 and 7 is, maybe that's a corner of the CPU or something. It may not have good contact or pressure or proper thermal paste coverage. So Phantom says melting CPU. So the important thing to keep in mind here is that even though the temperature is spicy at 100 degrees Celsius, it's not going to hurt the CPU. What's happening right now is it's hurting our potential performance a little bit. Simply put, the potential performance, this wattage that we're getting at 82 watts, we're being thermal throttled because we're hitting that 100 degree headroom, and it's causing the CPU to drop in performance so that we don't go above 100 degrees Celsius. And so as we drop in thermal, as we thermal throttle down, we lower our wattage to generate less heat, and that of course hurts our core clock speed. So if we were to go up here, you can see we're down to 4.7 gigahertz instead of 4.8. And I imagine if we weren't thermal throttling at all, maybe we could go to that solid 4.8 or maybe 4.9 gigahertz, somewhere up in that range. Not sure exactly what the max would be for the all-core turbo boost, but it's certainly going to be a little bit higher than what we're seeing right here because of the thermal throttling. Jasser wants to know, does undervolting work? So there is something called a curve optimizer tool. And what is the name of it? I did a Ryzen undervolting guide on the Zephyrus Duo 16 with the Ryzen 9 7945HX. And it's got a name that's similar to Intel XTU, but it's like Ryzen. I'm spacing on the name right now. But you can download it. It's a free tool. And what it does is it basically makes the processor work at a more efficient power versus performance level. It basically ramps all of the clock speeds up at the same power level and essentially does what undervolting does on Intel. And so, yeah, if you guys are interested in it, maybe we could do something like I'm tempted to do like a repaste guide on this laptop and a repaste, undervolt, and overclock guide for the Legion Pro 5. I don't know if that's something you guys are interested in. That might be fun to try to do. I don't know. Demon Salad says, just joining in, have you tested any of the refreshed G Series laptops from Dell? I have not tested them yet. I think that would be very interesting to test, though. Oh, Jasser says AATU. Yeah, it's AATU is that tool, I believe. Turboman said, I would love to see a repaste and overclocking video. Yeah, I would probably want to try a repaste off of live first, and then redo the repaste job on the system after the fact. Just make sure that everything is good. WTD Life says, is Lenovo Vantage cannot be used to monitor CPU and GPU temperature? I'm not sure about Lenovo Vantage being used for that purpose. It certainly doesn't give you the same level of detail as we are seeing here in HW Info. HW Info is highly detailed. So that's why I use it, and it's something that I use in every live stream, so it's easy for people to visually see and understand. And you can see just like everything about the CPU pretty much. Mr. Alexander says, how is the Lenovo laptop so far? I heard a lot of good things about this combo. Well, so far the Ryzen CPU is very spicy. We're running into 100 degrees thermal throttling, nonstop at 85 watts of power, 82 watts of power right now on average for our 10-minute test, which is a little disappointing. Our speakers test was also a little bit underwhelming. Only like a 7 point, let's call it a 7.4 for our speaker test, which is maybe slightly worse than average. The keyboard has been excellent, though it's not per key RGB lighting. The touchpad has been very good, but it has a bug where when I click it, it doesn't actually register the click. So I'm not sure if that's an issue with this unit or not. I think it may be an issue with this specific unit. And then we haven't done any other performance testing besides that. The display has very little backlight bleed and is overall a very good display for the money. 356 nits brightness. Can you provide any useful apps and software to show GPU, CPU temperatures? Yeah, so this right here, HW Info, is what I use. You can search this, HW Info 64. Look for that, and it'll go to a free download page. You should be able to use it. You should be able to download it directly from the main company that makes it, which is, I think, CPU ID. And then once you download that, you just install it and do sensors only mode. And then you'll have all this data here, and you can see your GPU and CPU data. Your GPU data will be down here at the bottom. That said, I usually use, for GPU data stuff, I use Afterburner so I can see it visually inside of the game when I'm playing the game, instead of having to Alt-Tab. But if you're using an external monitor, then you can use this to monitor the temperatures at the same time you play the game, depending on the scenario. Mr. Alexander says, it's a 500 nit, 240 hertz panel. Well, we have the 165 hertz panel in this unit, and it only went to 356 nits brightness. Poochie Head says, hey Gizmo, do you have any idea when all the AMD Lenovo Legion Pro 7 releases this year? I'm not sure if it's been available for sale yet or not. I went ahead, the Legion Pro 7 that I bought for review, let me just pull it up and see if we have had it for sale on the website here. So checking the website, my list here, the Pro 7, oops. Yeah, the Pro 7i. Yeah, we currently don't have any of the Pro 7s here on the list. So as far as I know, there's none for sale yet right now. So it's kind of too bad. I'm not sure when they'll go on sale. I think the Dragon Range CPU chips are just in high demand and are difficult to get right now. So that's the reason why they're basically being delayed. Okay, so looking at our averages, we averaged 81.7 watts during the 10-minute test. We've hit 100 degrees Celsius on the CPU package, and that's very, very hot. We've had thermal throttling. We've averaged 4.74 gigahertz across all of the cores, and that's a little bit sad that we're not hitting, max potential cores because of that thermal throttling. Let's go ahead and see what we get for our 10-minute test. I think we'll still get over 17,000, despite the thermal throttling, because we're not thermal throttling so hard that we're like losing the vast majority of performance or a high amount of performance. We're just coming down a bit. Yeah, okay, so we ended up getting 17,805 for our 10-minute score, which is still very good for a laptop in this price point. Under 1,500, 17,800, that's phenomenal. The main issue though is that you're running into those really high temperatures which a lot of people don't want to have to worry about. Oh, you know what I'm also going to do? Let's go ahead and try one run, or maybe a couple runs, without a 10-minute test on battery power. Are you guys ready to see some battery power test? Here's a battery power run. So I currently have the laptop unplugged. And we are doing 4.2 gigahertz. Our temps are very good at 70 degrees. We're pulling 45 watts of power to the CPU. So 45 watts, 69 degrees on the CPU, 4.1 gigahertz across all the cores. This should still be a very nice score for a battery-only run. Dang. ARP says that's similar score to the 7940HS. It's pretty similar. The 7940HS got a little bit less, like 17,000. So we got 15,464. Wow, that is a great score for a battery-only run. Jeez. So you're still able to capture the vast majority of performance, even when you're on battery life, which I think that's very important for some people out there. Right now we're doing 50 watts of power, well on battery. Now it's coming back down to 45, looks like. Still impressive. Really, really good performance while on battery. Let's see what we get for the second run while on battery. 15,762. Yeah, I think you're going to be pretty consistent in that area range approximately for your battery run. So yeah, if you need to edit on the go, a CPU like this, this Ryzen CPU is going to be great for video editing when you're on the go. All right, so we're ready to get into some of our game testing. Let's go ahead and open up Timespy. And here we're going to find out what our power limit translates to into real world usage. It's supposed to be 140 watts of power to the RTX 4060 in this laptop, but we've seen a number of other laptops that are supposed to be rated for 140 watts, and they don't actually push 140 watts. So Turboman says, why is it always the CPU that gets very hot, but not the GPUs? So Turboman, the Cinebench R23 is a CPU-only test. It does not test the GPU, so you shouldn't expect the GPU to get hot. That said, CPUs are actually capable of getting a lot hotter than the GPUs. GPUs thermal throttle at only 87 degrees Celsius, and CPUs thermal throttle at 100 degrees or maybe 95 degrees, depending on the CPU and how the manufacturer has configured it to run. So when you're talking about performance and temperatures, basically your GPU is able to reach full performance up to that 87 degrees Celsius point. You're still not thermal throttling. And with the CPU, you're getting 100% performance up to that 99 or maybe 95 degrees Celsius, depending on what the manufacturer has set to be the thermal throttle limit. And that just comes down to the silicon and the manufacturers, like the creators, Intel, AMD, NVIDIA. When they test the CPU, when they test the GPU, NVIDIA has basically said, we can't run the GPU higher than 87 degrees or we're going to damage it. So that's why they set the limit to 87. They say up to 87 degrees, you will never damage your GPU. And then with the CPUs, Intel and AMD CPUs, typically the limit is 100 degrees Celsius, and you will never damage your CPU up to that point. At least that's what they say. It's designed, it's within design spec up to that 100 degrees Celsius point. Okay, so here we are. We're in Timespy. We're in performance mode. We are doing 2500 megahertz on the core clock, 105 watts to this RTX 4060 in performance mode. We are not pushing 140 watts again. You know, the Zephyrus G14 actually pushed higher wattage than this. The Zephyrus G14 was doing like 110, 112 watts to the RTX 4060 in the review two days ago. Turboman says, wouldn't a hot CPU damage the motherboard long term? Not typically. The motherboard, the main area of the motherboard that can fail is actually the VRM modules, which is the voltage regulation modules. If those are not robust enough to handle the voltage and the heat, then those can fail. And so that really comes down to, are the VRMs capable of long-term high levels of voltage and temperature? Now, overall, in this test so far, our CPU temperature has been great at 66 degrees. Our GPU temperature also great at 63 degrees. 105 watts of power there. Again, 2500 megahertz on the core clock. It's quite clear to me that the GPUs in the RTX 4060 really are not designed to go up to 140 watts, at least based on what we're seeing in all of these laptops. We have seen 3 laptops, a bunch of laptops actually, that were supposed to go up to either 120, 125, or 140 watts to the RTX 4060, and we're just never seeing that level of load being applied to the GPU. And I'm guessing the reason is because we've got the RTX 4060 here. We're hitting 2500 megahertz on the core clock without needing more wattage. And so that just basically, to me, says that there's almost no point, I guess, for those GPUs to pull more wattage, because they're already probably maxing their core clocks to be as high as they could possibly be for the most part. That's my guess. Yeah, Massive L says, doesn't matter according to Jared's recent video. Anything above 100 watts shows no gains on the 4050, 4060, and 4070 GPUs. Yeah, that's basically essentially what I'm seeing as well. Notice in that CPU test, we saw 97 degrees on the CPU again. CPU getting very hot very fast. Okay, so we got 10,417. The CPU score, 11,410. The GPU score being about average for what we're seeing with RTX 4060s. We've seen it range from 10,300 to 10,600 approximately. Like I said, it's a little unfortunate that we're not seeing more gains from 140 watt RTX 4060s. The nice thing about this discovery, right, is that actually, let's go to performance mode, but I want to just turn on GPU overclock. All right, so we're gonna try flipping on GPU overclock and see what that does. All right, we're gonna see what that does to our performance. Also, our CPU score at 11,411 is very good. I just want to mention that. All right, let's go ahead and try our GPU overclock and see what happens. Now, what did I want to say? So, the good thing about the RTX 4060 being basically maxing its potential performance at closer to 100 watts, maybe 105 watts, is essentially you don't need to get a thicker laptop to get the maximum performance out of the RTX 4050, 4060, or 4070. You can go for something thinner and have basically the same gaming performance levels as the thicker laptops. And basically, the only real benefit for buying a thicker laptop this generation is going to be if you were to go for the RTX 4080 or 4090. So especially laptops chunkier than this one, especially, right? I mean, The nice thing about like when you compare this Legion Pro 5 versus say the Zephyrus G14, the G14, goodness, those temperatures on the GPU were pretty spicy. They were getting up to like the 85, 86 degrees, very close to thermal throttling for a lot of different games. And that was on maximum fans. I don't think we're going to have that problem at all with this laptop. This laptop is going to not thermal throttle or not even get close to thermal throttling almost ever. Now, look at our GPU boost clock. We have boosted our GPU clock by 150, and our memory clock now has gone up by 200 with this GPU OC that Lenovo did out of the box. And so a 150/200 overclock, I think, is going to be stable in almost every single gaming application or GPU utilization thing, pretty much for almost all of the RTX 4060s. I've only seen stability be introduced for when you overclock closer to like 200 or maybe 225 for the core clock. So I think it's probably a pretty safe OC to just flip on that overclock inside of the Lenovo Vantage software to get a bit more performance. And there's definitely a part of me that thinks that if you are going to get a thicker laptop like this, one of the advantages is you don't need to worry about the temperatures like you do in a thinner laptop. So why not flip on that OC and just run it all the time like that? LSP says 4070 score, a far cry from 4080 with 18,000. Yeah. They're voltage limited, thin, and lights are going to reign supreme with these cards. Yeah, you're not going to really see much of a performance bump with the 40, especially the 4050 and 4060. The 4070 might be a little bit different. It might be a little bit different, might have a little bit more benefit with the higher power limits. I haven't tested a high power limit 4070 yet. Brian says, I still remember Apple saying their Mac M2s are going to be great for gaming. Well, for casual gaming, yeah, maybe. You're doing any serious gaming, you got to have a faster response rate display anyway. For like almost all of the Mac stuff never has a fast response rate display. So you can't really do any sort of serious gaming on them anyway, no matter what. Okay, so we ended up getting 10,880, which is very good. 11,605, basically very similar CPU score. A nice bump to the GPU score, though. Overall, a very nice score for an RTX 4060, right in line with what we've seen with just about everything else. And at the same time, we're seeing excellent temperatures, which is great to see. That's what we want to see. Let's go ahead and flip off our OC. Man, I feel like if you buy this laptop, why wouldn't you turn that on? You would, I think. I think you would turn that on. That said, should we test it with OC enabled, guys, or not? I think we shouldn't, to keep it apples to apples with the other laptops. But I think most people would flip it on. That's kind of my take right now. Let's move into our suite of games, starting with Apex Legends. And I'm really curious to see what Star Wars Jedi Survivor does. All right, see, Mr. Alexander. High power 4070 versus high power 4060 is about 10 to 20 FPS difference in most games at 1080p max. That's really going to depend on the game. Lebroni says, I feel like the TI GPUs for low-end cars will see a massive gain as there is a massive gap between a 4070 and 4080. Yeah, well, Lebroni, they don't usually launch a TI card for the low-end cards. Like the last generation, they only did a 3070 Ti and a 3080 Ti, which are the two top-end cards. So I would anticipate them doing the same thing this year, which would mean they're going to do a 4080 Ti and 4090 Ti. But you're right. I think a 4070 Ti might make a lot of sense for a laptop upgrade to give us kind of something more in like the 16,000 Timespy range of performance, because there's just a huge gap between a 4070 and 4080. All right. Okay. So I've already raised the FPS limit to be over 300, or to be 300. So we'll have to see what we get. One of the key things for this Ryzen chip I think people should be looking at is definitely what the 1% lows look like versus, say, Intel or the old Ryzen chips, because these new chips have bigger L3 caches, and that can really impact your 1% low performance. Of course, we have a little bit faster memory in these new laptops, and that's also going to be impacting 1% low performance potentially as well. So, yeah. I don't know why Apex is taking so long to load. What's up, Adibas? Garchomp says, how is the fan noise? Good question. In performance mode, fans will ramp up and ramp down as needed. And during Timespy, I would say the fans were noticeable, but they were not max fans. And or they weren't that loud. They weren't as loud as most other laptops on max fans. Which makes sense because they're not set to max. They typically, the way Lenovo ramps them is they ramp up and down based on need, and they usually don't offer a custom max fan mode. So JCC says, I think you should test with GPU OC on since it's accessible to the user. Yeah. Is this louder than the G14 I tested? The G14 is definitely louder. In custom fan mode, can you set a fan curve? It basically is what you're asking. Let's find out. So inside of here, we have fan speed custom. Here's your fan speed control. And you can see that you do have custom fan speeds. So that's nice to see. Oh, this is one thing I really wanted to test. Okay, so Apex is not loading anyway. Let's just end this. Let's go to 3D Mark. GPU TGP. Can we set it to 135 watt? I'm just going to set it. I'm going to try clicking this 135 watt and see what happens. It's an option they have in their system, so why not set it? I think I have a feeling this is not going to impact performance much, but this could impact performance, so might as well test it. It doesn't seem to be saving this change. I click save. And then it's not saved when I go back in there again. Let's just open up Timespy and just see if the TDP changes or not. Parallel Train says, do you think some laptops that switch to Intel CPU, such as the G16 this year, will get an AMD CPU refresh next year? Parallel Train, it's too hard to know right now what laptops are going to switch back and forth between Intel and AMD, primarily because of chip limitations. That's the main reason why a lot of the laptops, I think, switched from AMD to Intel. In addition, I think so basically AMD just can't make enough CPUs, which causes laptop manufacturers to have problems when they can't actually sell the laptops. They have customers that want to buy the laptop, but AMD can't give them the CPU to even make it happen. All right, so our GPU is only at 55 right now. It's not working as it should. Can we try this? It's only running it at 55 right now. It's definitely bugged. We're definitely running into a bugged system setting right there. Yeah, so basically the other reason why AMD didn't, a lot of laptops switched from AMD to Intel is that Intel has shown that they can put out higher frame rates in a lot of the popular titles like Call of Duty Modern Warzone 2. So it's not like Ryzen CPUs are bad, but the i9 11980HK certainly, I think, demonstrated a higher level of performance. So I think so. We also had 55 watts there for some reason. I don't think this is going to work. We're going to need to stay in performance mode, unfortunately. And I will turn on GPU OC for you guys because that's what you guys probably want to see this tested at. So we're going to run it with GPU OC enabled. Let's see if we can get Apex Legends to open properly for us. Super weird that's not opening. So when you pair an RTX 4060 with a Ryzen or an Intel i9, it won't matter that much, right? Because you're unlikely to max, you're unlikely to be as CPU bound with only an RTX 4060. You're almost always going to be GPU bound with the weaker GPUs. Whereas if you try to go up to the RTX 4080, 4090, that's where you might end up getting a CPU bound a lot more. Even at QHD resolution, you may end up being CPU bound because those GPUs are just so much more powerful than a 4050, 4060, or 4070. What applications, software do I delete after getting a new laptop? I always delete the any antivirus, McAfee or Norton. I remove any of the extra applications that might be running in the background that I don't use. Such in this scenario, I did remove McAfee, and then sometimes I uninstall applications that come on the laptop from the manufacturer. Depends on the laptop. Each one has different, right? I think HP has different pre-installed applications than Lenovo, and Lenovo has different ones from MSI or Razer. And the only ones I usually try to keep installed are the ones that actually affect laptop functionality or performance. So I don't know why Apex Legends doesn't want to load, but that's 2 times in a row now. I wonder if the Lenovo software is blocking it. Look at this. There's this Wi-Fi security button right here. Let's go ahead and turn that off. All right. Let's turn that off and see what happens now. Because that initial screen is basically the game trying to connect to the Apex Legends servers when it's like spinning the dial like that. Usually this part only takes about 5 seconds or less. If this starts taking longer than that, yeah, that's really weird. So, man, that's unfortunate. Okay, well, I guess we won't be able to test Apex Legends. Let's go into see if Warzone 2 works. Have you ever tried using the Lenovo toolkit instead of Vantage? No, I haven't. Have I tested the ARC laptops? No, I have not yet, Garchomp. That's an interesting question. Better to reboot? I might. If I can't get any of these games to work, then yeah, I'll try to do a reboot or something. Hosseini says, I think you're not getting 140 watts because your voltage limited. You can use MSI Afterburner to curve editor to force constant voltage at like 0.9. I mean, I think the reason why we're not pulling more wattage is because the GPU doesn't actually need more wattage to hit the max boost clocks. I think that's the reason. Because basically the GPUs are not designed to actually go to 140 watts or need to even pull 140 watts to hit maximum potential performance. Okay, and let's go into our settings. We are set to full screen exclusive. (165 Hz refresh rate, 2560 by 1600. DLSS on quality. We're going to be set to minimum specs, but with texture resolution high. I'll apply that. Cool. Let's go ahead and start. Furmark would probably push it. Yeah, that's something that I saw Jared talk about, that when he was testing some laptops, he couldn't get it to push to 140 watts of power unless he was using Furmark. So... Gotcha, Hossein. That's interesting. He says you can get 140 watts for using Furmark, but you see the voltage is it's 0.9 for 140 watts. I think the tricky part about changing the voltage on the GPU is that it's so much more dangerous to the actual GPU, and you might actually permanently damage the GPU. So much more likely than if you're just trying to OC within spec'd voltages, and you know, within the range of realistic wattage that it's designed for. So usually in desktop GPUs you can sometimes adjust the voltage, or sometimes that's how you do overclocking. In laptop GPUs you essentially never do overclocking with voltage adjustment. You would change the power limits, the core clocks, the memory clocks. Just because I think the variations of the voltage is so much more dangerous for like the VRMs and long-term survival of the laptop. Okay, we found a match. Let's get in here and let's see how well this Ryzen chip does in Warzone 2. I'm hoping we can push over 100 FPS. Warzone 2 being a very CPU limited game, it does really well on the i9 and the i9 13980HK. We're doing like around 155 FPS in several different laptops at this resolution. So, but I'm not sure. Like on the Ryzen 9 7945HX, we were only doing like 125 to 135 FPS. So.
Use this time to practice. We will be deploying soon.
Okay, so let me.
Hostiles dropping into the area.
So we got 110 FPS right now. 108. I love these warm-ups. They're always fun.
Enemy drop
Okay, so interesting. I think our software monitoring may have got things out of order here.
Gas is approaching your position. Move to the safe zone.
Okay.
Vehicle mark. Let's land here.
There we go. Okay. I try to land in the same area every time. Okay, so right here, now we're in the right order. Okay, because our FPS is in the wrong order, I think. So we're averaging 107 FPS, 71%, 71 for our 1% low initially here, which is very good. This is higher than we were getting with the Zephyrus G14, but not as high as we were seeing on the i9 or... Ooh, he got us. We didn't have a good gun. So overall, this is better performance than the G14 by a noticeable margin. Oh, we're about to do this. Oh yeah, you ready, man? Let's go. Okay, see if we can win this fight. Let's go. Where is he? Yeah, we got him. Okay, so we are doing 121 FPS in that part of the map, which is very good. Looking at our temperatures, the GPU is 69 degrees. The CPU, oh, we got people fighting right here. Ah, my gun sucked. GG, sir. I came back for more and lost again. Okay, so overall, it's obviously a very good gaming experience. It's obviously a very good gaming experience in Warzone 2. It's not as high FPS as what you're going to get, I think, with an i7 or an i9 chip. But it's not bad at all. Let's move into control. We'll do a quick run around in control and see what we get. Does the GPU ever pull over 100 watts? Kwai, yes, it will pull over 100 watts, but that's Warzone 2 is a very CPU-bound game. So, yeah. Brian says, why play Warzone when you can play in real life? Dude, real life, you die. You crazy, man. I don't want to die. All right. So we're going to be in full screen, 2560 by 1600. We're going to turn on DLSS. It's going to be set to the highest quality setting, which is quality. We're going to go to high settings. And we are going to turn ray tracing on to high. All right, so these are the default settings that we're going to do. Okay, so Ptolemy says, I'd really like to see which benchmarks for a Seta Corzone Competizone. I have a budget of $4,000. I really want to know which one would you choose, and can you help me, man, please? So if you're looking to use a triple screen and you're looking to do a Seta Corsa and your budget's $4,000, I would probably go with something like the Scar 16, maybe. All right, so I'd probably go Scar 16, and then you can get the Mon Duo triple screen setup. That's probably what I would do, or maybe you could go with the Blade 16. But if your goal is to be like a competitive, a Seta Corsa type of a gaming laptop setup, then you're probably going to want to get as powerful a CPU and GPU as possible. So you probably want to either get the Ryzen 9 7945HX, or you want to get the i9 13980HX as well. Okay, so here we are. Okay. We're about to run through control. We're pulling 108 watts of power to the GPU. We are being GPU bound. Our CPU is 89 degrees, which is a bit on the spicier side. 67 degrees for the GPU, and our fan noise is very minimal right now. So that's very good. We're averaging 61 FPS with 44 for our 1% low. This gameplay is very good considering that we've got everything set to maximum right now. Oh, I just blew that guy up. Dang. Brutal. So overall control is going to be very playable. Though that's on ultra settings. With maximum ray tracing, you can obviously get way higher FPS very, very easily. That said, Ptolemy, if you want like a single screen experience, then you probably would want to go single screen, best to set a Corsa for not doing a triple monitor setup within this. Like, you're talking about on the laptop or with an external setup. I'm not sure what you're talking about there, but yeah. Yeah, any of you definitely, no matter what, you want to get 175 watt RTX 4090. That should be your focus. And then the other items beyond that are you want the highest end CPU as well. So yeah, it's not too hard to get something that will be at least always mostly competitive, you know. Okay, so I also want to turn on NetGraph 3. Here we go. Ryzen or Intel for the CPU? I'm not sure which CPU runs better with a set of cores though. If I were to guess, I would guess Intel, but I don't know. Maybe Ryzen would do just fine too. I'm guessing you're going to get great FPS with either one though. I doubt you're going to have like bad performance with either one. So, okay, so here we are, CSGO. We're at 300 FPS. We're at QHD. Settings are on high. We're pushing 400 FPS, right at the edge between 340 and 400 FPS. Obviously, this is going to be really great performance for CSGO. Makes sense. Yeah. Ptolemy, I would probably go Intel i9, but if you were if you were to actually look up some benchmarks, I would just Google like Assetto Corsa, Competizone, Ryzen or Intel, and see which one performs better between the Intel i9 13900K and the top like Ryzen chips, like the, I don't know, 5800 X3D or something like that, or is it the 7800 X3D? I'm not sure which one the top Ryzen desktop chip is off the top of my head, but you just want to look at the top Ryzen chip and then look at the top Intel chip and try to see if anyone's done a comparison in Assetto Corsa. And then most likely the CPU architectures are going to translate pretty closely to the laptop CPUs, because they're basically like stripped down desktop chips right now in these laptops. So yeah, the Ryzen 3D runs it better. Yeah, well, if the Ryzen 3D runs it better, then you probably want to go to the Ryzen 9 7945HX. But I'm guessing you're probably going to get really good FPS in either one. And if you're going with a triple monitor setup, you're going to end up being GPU bound anyway, because it's such a high resolution. So the Scar 17 with the 4090 would be a good choice, yeah. Okay, so we ended up getting 321.55. Very nice. Moving on to our next game. Cyberpunk 2077. Here we go. Yeah, the 7800 X3D is probably the best desktop one, which probably means that yeah, probably the Ryzen 9 is probably the way to go in that scenario if that's true, but it may not be. I would actually, yeah. Like I said, most likely you're going to be GPU bound if you're doing a triple monitor setup. And then if you're doing a single monitor setup, you're going to have great FPS either way. So all right. So, into Cyberpunk now. Let's see what we get. Notice that we're pretty often hitting 95 degrees, 98 degrees right here on the Ryzen chip, even when we're just loading in and out of stuff. Which is a little bit annoying that we're running into that limitation, and kind of, like I said, it's probably a bad CPU paste job. So repasting this thing would probably provide much better temperatures. All right, so let's go full screen. Frame generation enabled. So we're going to be all ultra settings with ray tracing enabled, and then we're going to have frame generation on with DLSS on quality. And that should be good. Let's go ahead and run it. Ahmed Ordu says, please do max fan. I can't right now. The custom max fan mode, it was bugged in setting the wattage on the GPU down to 55 watts. Oh, thank you for reminding me about the camera. All right, so, whoa, we're getting some stutters there. We're getting stutters because the GPU is dropping in wattage down to 20 watts for some reason. I'm pretty sure that invalidates the test. We'll have to rerun this test. I don't know why we're running into those stutters, which is kind of interesting. It's the first time we've seen that stuttering in any of the games so far. But obviously there was some kind of bottleneck. Maybe the CPU was bottlenecking, or maybe something in the background was loading, causing it to bottleneck and drop in wattage. I saw 120 watts on the GPU there for a moment. Oh, LSP says VRAM limit. Yeah, we're running into 7500, 77. There it is. 8 gigs right there on the VRAM. Oh, so I had just started the benchmark when it stuttered. It caused a stutter resetting the benchmark results. Interesting. Okay, so to see these results, we're gonna need to. We'll need to rerun it here, but I'm gonna scoot this forward. So there we go. 51 FPS was our average, but we're going to. We're gonna rerun it back again. It was like when MSI Afterburner started calculating the averages, it caused it to stutter. So this time, I am not going to activate the MSI Afterburner average counter and see if it doesn't stutter. So we're doing 48 FPS, 49 FPS. We are hitting our VRAM limitations right here. Oh, I bumped it. We are hitting our VRAM limitations right here at 8 gigs. We are GPU bound. We're not CPU bound. I'm not seeing any stuttering happening. Oh, I just saw some stutter happen. That's probably because of the VRAM buffer being filled up. You know, it's interesting. I don't remember Cyberpunk filling out the VRAM like this before. Like I didn't think that it was so demanding on the VRAM. I wonder if it changed with the recent updates. Makes me want to go back and check some of my old videos and see what the VRAM usage was on previous tests. That round we got 50. Our min was 4, very low. If we go down here and we try to drop our textures, where's our textures at? Do you guys see textures? Am I blind? I'm pretty sure that see, even right now it's saying 7200. I mean, I can check the task manager. Yeah, it's just Cyberpunk that's using the GPU right now. Okay, let's just try all ultra settings, no ray tracing, and see how much VRAM is being used. The option comes below the presets for the textures when you start the game. Yeah, that's what I thought, but I didn't see any underneath the presets. Okay, so we're still hitting, now that we have no ray tracing enabled, we are still hitting our close to the max VRAM limitations, but we're not actually pumping all the way up to the 8 gigs anymore. I have not seen any stutters so far. I just clicked, yeah, so I just tapped the MSI Afterburner to start calculating, and our 1% low is excellent. So we're close to the max VRAM utilization, but we're not actually pushing up into it right now. But it is definitely a little worrisome that we're getting so close, even in Cyberpunk now. Oh, interesting. So you're not going to be able to change it once you have it set. You have to restart the game. That's kind of silly. So this run, We're running frame generation, DLSS on quality, everything's set to ultra, right? And we're on QHD plus 16 by 10. We got 76.8 for our FPS. Our min was very good at 63, which is good. Yeah, frame generation enabled, DLSS on quality. Okay, I'm gonna try to go back to the main menu, see if we can change our textures inside of there. I am going to settings, go into video, graphics, texture quality right here. Low, medium, and high. So we'll try setting it to low. We'll go ray tracing ultra, but medium.
So max 17 with an i9 and 4.
And we'll go to quality again. There we go. Medium. Why it won't? It literally the texture quality keeps jumping back to high. It won't let me do anything except high. I wonder what Cyberpunk did to their game. It like seems to have taken a step backwards.
I like our wattages right now.
Okay, so here we are. Cyberpunk, DLSS on quality, frame generation enabled, ray tracing on ultra. We're running it back again. We're getting 47 FPS. And there's our 1% low stutters right there. So yeah, we're definitely running into some VRAM limitations. We're pushing up to that 8 gig VRAM limit for sure. And we're not able to change the VRAM down. And in a similar test, I want to show you this. Once this test is done, I will show you a test that we did on the Omen 17 with an RTX 4090. And we were pulling over 9 gigs of VRAM. So there's another stutter right there with the VRAM. So in order to get this to pull less VRAM, we probably got to try using, I don't know, either reducing DLSS or let's try going down to performance. So right here, I think you can see this now. Yeah, so you can see right here, this is on the Omen 17. We're doing 9 gigs of VRAM usage at 16 by 9 aspect ratio, which is actually a little bit lower resolution than what we're doing now. So Cyberpunk is even wanting over 8 gigs of VRAM in this test. So, and wow, we're definitely running into some more stutters. Look at that. We're running into so many stutters. I'm going to go ahead and just restart. I'm going to restart the system and see if that will help improve our stuttering or not. If we're still seeing it on a fresh restart of the system, that certainly is a really good example of why you really want more than 8 gigs of VRAM for QHD resolutions. Let me check the live stream from 2 days ago when we did... let's check the live. There we are live right there. Let's check the Zephyrus G14 live stream, because in this one,
35.
we also tested Cyberpunk, and it has the same GPU.
As we've raised the power
right? So we're on high quality settings.
QHD plus.
Okay, so notice that we are pulling. Make sure that it's on the right screen. Yeah. So this is the Zephyrus G14 right now that we're looking at, and we are pulling 8.16 gigs of the VRAM right now. Actually, more than 8 gigs.
106 watts to the GPU.
And we are getting fairly low 1% lows in this Cyberpunk. But the stutters were not as bad.
Our GPU temps are still a bit down a little bit more.
Interesting. Let's go back into a little further back into the history and check a older Cyberpunk. Let's try the Zephyrus G16. Let's check before they updated the game with ray tracing overdrive, because that may have been where it got messed up. Wow, this live stream has 1.26 million views now. I did not even realize it was that crazy. Oh, this is on full HD plus though. This isn't QHD. Well, let's see what the VRAM usage is on this. Right? So
you're dealing with only 8 gigs of RAM.
So this one at 1200p is doing 7.5 gigs of VRAM utilization. So even at 1080p full HD, it's still wanting 7.5 gigs. That's a lot of VRAM utilization for Cyberpunk. And I guess it's another game where you might run into VRAM limitations. Let's try seeing if we can change the textures down lower now. And let me try checking with chat. NVIDIA gimping their GPU. Yeah, for real. Like the more I pay attention to VRAM limitations, the more problematic it is for QHD resolutions. Full HD resolutions happens much more rarely. And stuttering because of VRAM is one of the most annoying things, because you're like, smooth gameplay, perfect gameplay, super fun, and then boom, stutter when you go into a new area or something, as it loads all the textures in, because there's not enough of a buffer to keep them all in there. Okay, so can we set it to medium textures? Looks like it took the settings that time. We're on everything on Ray Tracing Ultra, except now we're on medium textures. Let's try running the game again. LP Oreo Ice Cream Cake wants to know, will you be testing the Asus Flow 13 2023? Do you want to know about the Flow Z13 or X13? I would love to test both of those. We'll see if I can get... okay. I didn't have Afterburner open. Let's load Afterburner. Come on back. I think I crashed. LP Oreo says C13. Hello Sam says X13. I want to do both of them if I can. Okay, yeah. So we're trying to... I got to restart Cyberpunk again. Let me reopen it, please. All right, we'll do this one more test. The goal is to try to test Cyberpunk on medium textures instead of high textures and see if that alleviates. I want to see what alleviates the VRAM limitation problem at QHD resolution for Cyberpunk. Like, does medium textures put us in the right range to keep us safe, and do they look good? I'm assuming they'll look pretty decent on medium. Okay, so under graphics, we're on medium textures. We should have everything set. Yeah, so we're still set to ultra settings with ray tracing on ultra. Now, let's see what kind of VRAM limitations we use. We're bumping up 7.3, and we're at 8 gigs already with medium textures. But let's see how we do in-game, see if it's stuttering at all. Okay, so far, no stutters. 54 for our average, 44 for our 1% low. We are bumping right into that 8 gig cap though. But so far it's not caused stuttering, which is good. Oop, there's some stutters right there. Yep. So it looks like even medium textures are not enough. Let's go ahead and jump back in and we'll set it to low textures. And we'll see, is low textures going to be enough? Camera is not currently pointed at the older video. I do know that much. Or maybe I'm just reading it late. Stephen Ashley says, I had the Z13 acronym with 4070, but returned it for $2,500. It was way underpowered. Interesting. Well, for a tablet, it was probably really awesome. But when you see the performance of all of the higher end laptops, you're like, ooh, I want the 4080 or 4090 performance for $2,500. You know, you could get a Strix G18 with 4080, you know? So at least that would be my perspective. Okay, so now we're on low quality textures. Well, let's find out. Are we going to bump into our max VRAM? 7.6 gigs on our textures right now. We haven't bumped over 8 like we did initially loading last time. But here we go. Let's find out. 55 FPS. 43 for our 1% low. There's some stutters there as we pushed our textures up again to 7.8 gigs. I think in this kind of game, I think what you're looking at is, oof, that was a lot of stutter right there. I think what you're looking at is you're going to need to be willing to down your resolution. I think that's going to be your only solution. Let's try. We're on low textures right now. Let's try also downloading our DLSS to a lower resolution first before we actually lower our primary resolution. Do you want to review the Nitro 1617? Yeah, I do. I did a Nitro 5 16-inch recently. 54 FPS, but we had a gnarly stutter. All right, we're going to try going down to performance for our DLSS resolution. Let's see if that reduces our VRAM utilization. It doesn't look like it is. Maybe. We're down to 6.7 gigs. Seven gigs. All right, so I've reset the MSI Afterburner. We're at 74 average FPS. We've only hit 7 gigs right now on our VRAM. Finally, we're hitting in the right range. I believe we're under our VRAM limitation. And let's see, right here is where we're always stuttering previously. As we transition to the outdoor environment, it needs to load all these additional textures. And so far, no stuttering. Phenomenal. Okay. Awesome to see. Awesome to see. 74 FPS with 58 for a 1% lows. Okay. I think we finally hit a stable FPS with low textures and DLSS on performance. But man, that's a lot of little troubleshooting to try to optimize the resolution to keep it at the 2560 by 1600. And in some ways, you might be better off just dropping down to 1200p resolution and then do DLSS on quality. I don't know, you know? So 75 for our 75.6 for our FPS and 33 for our min. Dang. Okay, moving on to Dead Space now. How many watts is the total system power draw on this laptop? I'm not sure about the total system draw, but the CPU there was doing like 45 and the GPU was doing close to 100. Then you have your display and the other components pulling some watts. So I'm not sure. Pack says, got myself XMG Neo 17 with a 4090, Cherry MX with 32 gigs, and it is a beast. Your video for it really helped. Dude, congrats, man. That sounds like an awesome laptop. I wish I could have tried the mechanical keyboard because that mechanical keyboard was so much better than the membrane keyboard. So, yeah. Stephen Ashley says, the XG Mobile is another $2,000. Flow Series is too niche and overpriced. Well, I think if you go with the XG Mobile, you would want to buy like the lowest end GPU. So you get like the RTX. If you want to get the best bang for the buck, you go with the lowest end GPU, like the RTX 4050. And then you go with the highest end XG Mobile. So that way you get the most performance most of the time, but at least decent performance when you're not plugged into it. At least if you're trying to go for the best bang for the buck, because you don't really want to spend double super expensive when you can get like spend $1,500 and then spend $2,000 and then you're in total, you know, spending $3,500 for a combo rather than like $4,500 or $5,000 or something. Stephen Ashley says, should also test Jedi Survivor. We are testing Jedi Survivor. It is on the game list. I have downloaded it already. So don't you worry. I have not tried it at all yet. I'm guessing we're also going to run into VRAM limitations in that game. We'll find out. Who knows? I hear there's all kinds of optimization issues with that game, though. So I want to point out, once again, as we are loading, we're hitting that 98 degrees on the CPU. A repaste job would probably fix that. Will I be testing Planet Coaster? I don't know what that is, so no. So we're going to do Ultra mode. Ultra preset with full screen, 165 hertz, QHD. Continue. All right, so here's a game finally where we're not running into VRAM limitations. 6.9 gigs on all ultra settings. We're getting some solid FPS that's smooth and non-stuttery, which is nice to see. That said, our FPS is not super high. You know, a game like this where you got crazy monsters coming at you, I feel like you might want a little bit higher than 60 FPS. Right now we're averaging 58 FPS. Once again, well, right now we are GPU bound. It looks like we're hitting 100% GPU utilization. As we turn around, look around, we're still being GPU bound, but our CPU is basically barely keeping up. 97 degrees, 96 degrees to the CPU. We're doing 68, 63 watts to that Ryzen chip, and that's a lot of wattage to a Ryzen chip. Yeah, that's a lot of wattage, especially for only 8 cores on this Ryzen chip. So, all right, so we're going to flip around. We're going to start our benchmark run. 7.3 gigs on the VRAM now. So we might run into VRAM limitations in this, maybe in some more complex areas of this game. I'm not sure. But we're not seeing any stutters, at least in this area right here. We're averaging 61 FPS, 44 FPS for a 1% lows. We'll also drop down to 1080p and redo the test. This is obviously going to be some fantastic gameplay and a very enjoyable gaming experience right here. But yeah, all of these VRAM limitation issues just make me in general, like if you're going to go with an 8 gig VRAM card, you know, mini games will play just fine in QHD, but a lot of the newer games are going to run into VRAM limitations, and you're going to have to just be willing to fiddle with the settings until you turn the textures to the right level. You might have to drop them to low or medium, or you might have to lower the resolution or reduce your DLSS to a slightly lower setting so that you don't get the 1% stuttering. Right, so... All right, so let's go into our graphics. We're going to set this to 16:9. We're doing this so that we have a more comparable benchmark with some of the other laptops out there. Because I did most of the testing with 4060s at this resolution. Okay, so notice that we are also no longer at 100% GPU utilization. Well, we were for a moment there. Woo. Our CPU now is pumping up 71 to the watts, 72 watts, 100 degrees on that CPU. Our VRAM went down to 6.3 gigs, lowering our resolution, so it gives us more of a nice buffer with our VRAM there. 99% GPU utilization. So we're still getting very high GPU utilization, and our GPU temperature is excellent at 63 degrees. Our average FPS right now hitting 91.57, which is pretty good. I have to actually see how that lines up with some of the others. 101 degrees right now on this Ryzen chip, just riding that thermal throttle right now. We're just buddying up to it and being like, hello, I like to ride the wave. We're hanging 10. 102, we're dipping our toes in the water. Wonder if we're going to thermally crash right now with the thermal throttle. Yikes, 102. Brutal. That is brutal. These Ryzen chips, they do not cool as easily, it seems like, compared to the Intel chips. And when you have a bad paste job, like what I think we have in this unit, we end up with just one or two of the cores just getting really hot. So far, I'm not seeing any damage on instability, or we're not stuttering on our 1% lows, but I would not want to keep this laptop long term without fixing the paste job, probably. So I think almost for sure we're going to do a repaste live stream with this laptop and see if we can fix this at some point in the future. Would you guys like that? I think that would be really cool. So let me know in the comments if you really want to see that. I'm very curious about that. But overall, still very good performance in this game, but crazy temperatures as well. Am I getting the ROG G17 for review? I wasn't able to. Yeah. Clocks are holding up pretty well. Yeah, the clock speed and the wattages were pretty insane, but the temperatures were nuts. 102, that's higher than the rated spec for what it's supposed to be. And I mean, when you're trying to buy a laptop and you want to keep it long term, you really want to not be pushing maximum everything all the time for temps, Okay, so we should be good to go. We're on we're on high quality ray tracing preset, 2560 by 1600. Frame generation is enabled. DLSS should be on quality. Let's just make sure DLSS is on quality. Where is DLSS in this? Dying Light 2 has... Dying Light 2 has upgraded their stuff. Changed their menu. And I'm no longer seeing where DLSS is on the menu. Am I blind? Oh, right here. DLSS quality. I am freaking blind. Okay. There we go. Let's go and run it. Steve O'Nashi, you can jump back a little further back in the live stream and check out the inside of the laptop. This is a heat pipe design. So it had one big fat shared heat pipe and like one dedicated to the CPU, one extra dedicated to the CPU, and then two dedicated to the GPU. So I don't think the repaste job would be like impossible, but it might not be the easiest repaste job ever. LSP Inspiron 7501 flashbacks. Laptop went to 100 degrees Celsius, 102 degrees Celsius quickly at 45 watt only CPU. GPU cannot push 50 watt constantly due to a thermal problem. Cooling pad only slightly mitigated the problem. Changing to a Legion or Scar. Yeah. Okay. So far, looking at evaluating this at QHD plus resolution, we're still doing 6.3 gigs of VRAM usage, which is good. We're well within the bounds of our VRAM limitations. We shouldn't be VRAM limited here. We're doing 105 watts to the GPU with 100% GPU utilization. We're hitting nonstop 2655 on our clock speeds for the GPU. Our CPU temps are in check at 86 degrees, so that's good. 5.1 gigahertz on that CPU, which is very good. 71 FPS for our average, which is obviously going to be very playable and a nice FPS to play this game at. I think this is going to be a really good overall gaming experience on the Legion Pro 5. So we've got ourselves an excellent result overall, I believe, with minimal to no issues. Good to see finally a new recently released game playing perfectly. 75-42 for our FPS averages. Very nice. Let's move on to God of War. And I also I did load into Last of Us because we're about to do Last of Us soon here after this. I did load into Last of Us, and it was I let the shaders run. So we should have the shaders fully rendered out this time for that game, which we'll see if that makes any difference for performance. I'm not sure that it will or not, but especially during the intro segments of the game. So 2560 by 1600. We want 16 by 10 aspect ratio. DLSS is on quality. Graphics is on ultra. Let's hop in. Okay, so our CPU right now is hitting 99 degrees Celsius. Once again. Oh my goodness. All right, so 97. That said, our VRAM is great at 5.7 gigs. That's not a problem. 97 degrees Celsius on that CPU. 54 watts, 55 watts to the CPU. 105 right now to the GPU. Let's go ahead and start our benchmarking run. $61.50. Our excellent 1% lows. The Ryzen chip is doing really, really well here. It's not a problem. Let's go ahead and just drop Yeah, I think we're just going to call it there. I was going to say maybe we do 1080p, but let's just move on to the next game. Obviously, very good gaming experience in God of War. Once again, a more recent game that's a AAA game, not running into VRAM limitations or really anything bad except for that CPU temperature being very hot, very heavy. So again, repasting I think would be very good in this scenario. Gabor says, I would really appreciate if you'd help me deciding what to choose between the G5 4060, the Legion 5 2021, R5 5600H, and 3060. They're the same price, Nitro 5 not available. Well, between those two, I would definitely go with the new Gigabyte G5 4060. Because the 4060 is going to be a lot more powerful than that 3060. It's got frame gen. It's got 2 gigs more on VRAM. So you're not going to run into as much VRAM limitations with the 4060, and the 4060 is just going to be a lot faster. Plus, the CPU in the Gigabyte G5 is going to be way faster than the Legion 5 2021 R5 5600H. You're going to actually run into some CPU bottlenecking at 1080p resolution potentially in certain titles. So yeah, I would say the 4060 is definitely going to be the way to go between those two. But yeah, I don't necessarily think the G5 is the best option at under $1,100. Depends on your region or what's available in your area. So Stephen Ash says, would like to see if you decide to repaste though. Stephen Ash says, okay, looked it up. Legion 5 is standard heat pipe, but uses Honeywell phase change thermal pads like the RTX 4090 desktop card. Be careful with repaste. It may not be any improvement. Interesting. Well, it'd be an interesting project. This laptop is likely going to need an RMA. Yeah, we might end up RMAing this, actually, like you're saying. Especially if the repaste job doesn't help. Like, honestly, I could RMA this laptop just because the touchpad is not clicking properly. Okay, so we're on all ultra settings. Ray tracing is enabled. Textures are on low. All right, DLSS is on quality. Let's go ahead and hop into the game. So Hogwarts is another one of the games that can be very VRAM limited. And I'm anticipating that we're going to run into some VRAM stuttering maybe as we run through Hogwarts here. So far, no problems. As we run through Hogwarts, notice our VRAM is kicking up. We were at 6.3, then we're at 6.9. We're over 7 now for our VRAM. 7.0. We definitely had a few stutters there, and usually with Hogwarts, you don't actually reach the full max on terms of what it says is being used, even though you are still stuttering. Yeah, we're still stuttering. Though the stutters in Hogwarts, they're not like as game breaking usually, or they can be not as game breaking. It really depends. Okay, so now that we've done our run through, we're going to go ahead and reset over here and start running back up. Overall, this is a very playable experience, especially since this is the most demanding part of Hogwarts. So 75 FPS right now. Our 1% low is 31 right now, 35, 21. And overall, it feels like a pretty smooth gaming experience, though, with like occasional dips and stutters. But it's not, like I said, this is the most demanding area. So I'm anticipating that it wouldn't be as big a problem in the other areas of the game. 6822, we got 7 gigs of VRAM utilization. Overall, I think you'd be able to play this game pretty much no problem. If we were to run out here, out of the countryside a little bit, let's just pop over here real quick. Yeah. Interesting. Our VRAM utilization is actually going up a little bit over here. Probably because it's like now having to do the textures and the city. So 7.1 gigs, 7 gigs of VRAM usage. Yeah, the game feels fairly smooth and pretty good gaming experience, primarily because of the frame gen. Without frame gen, it would be pretty rough. If we were to drop our resolution down to full HD, we'd obviously have an even smoother, higher FPS experience on Hogwarts. So that's good. Now let's go and do Last of Us, and then we'll hop into Jedi Survivor. Contrail says 5.1 gigahertz, not all cores, Shirley. Yeah, no, it's. Hey, don't call me Shirley. But besides that, yeah, it's likely only on probably 1 or 2 cores that it's pushing 5.1 gigahertz. All right, so we're gonna do a new game. Here we go. Ravenclaw has the prettiest house common room. Does it? Honestly, I haven't really even tried. I haven't tried going to all of them yet, but I do like the Ravenclaw common room. It's really good. Gabor says, thanks, really. GF66 is the only other in sale. I think it's worse. Yeah, I wouldn't get the GF66 if you can. Unfortunately, here in Hungary, all notebook prices are like 130, 150%. Gotcha. Yeah, the Gigabyte G5, I did like it. It was quite good overall, except for when it was crashing with the power adapter issue that I ran into. So that was the main thing that was an issue for me. But after I used it for a while, it didn't do it anymore. So that was the weird part. Okay, so we're gonna do quality, DLSS on quality. All right, we're gonna go to our options. We're gonna apply the changes. Go to graphics. We're gonna set to ultra settings and reflections, textures. Where's textures? Textures. We're gonna go down to medium. Okay. Okay, so if we did not change this, if we kept the textures on ultra, we would have lots of stuttering with our 1% lows because our VRAM would be maxed. All right, but so here we are, DLSS on quality. Everything's on ultra, except textures are on medium, and we're getting very playable frames at 62, 39 FPS for our 1% lows. Our GPU temps have been pretty much excellent in every game we've tested so far, but our CPU temps have always been on the warmer side or super hot. And in this scenario, we're at 79. That's pretty good. So when we're only pushing 47 watts of power, the Ryzen chip is really not getting that hot. I do also want to point out that our RAM usage is at 14.8 gigs, which might indicate that we're running out of RAM on our system RAM because we only have 16 gigs of total RAM. And in some of the games that we've tested, we have seen RAM utilization going higher than 16. Like Hogwarts likes to push 24 gigs of usage. So you really would want 32 gigs total if you're going to try to do Hogwarts and certain other titles too. Steven actually says, Last of Us Part 1 is heavily CPU limited. If GPU usage is low, don't bother with DLSS. Well, our GPU utilization is at 100%. So I don't think that's the scenario that we're running into right now, Steven. So 61 FPS for our average, 50 for our 1% low. I think you'd run in, I think aside from occasional crashing that Last of Us has sometimes, I think you're going to find an excellent gaming experience with this laptop with Last of Us Part 1. Yeah. Now that we're going to hop into the game, I'm going to reset the benchmark tool again. Now that we're about to play. And once we get done with this game, we're going to go into Jedi Survivor, and we're going to see how the RTX 4060 fares with that one. Because that one's going to be really interesting. That's going to be very demanding, very taxing. Okay, so I've reset the FPS counter now that we're playing. Man, this gameplay is riveting. Just the door opening skills on this girl is unreal. Do you see this newspaper right here? It's just incredible. Admitted spikes at area hospitals. Okay, cool. So there's your Last of Us little benchmark. Obviously, I think it's going to be very playable and no issues. We're gonna... This is the first time opening Jedi Survivor, so it might take a little while to get it opened. We have to install the EA app, apparently. Once you get rushed by zombies in town, the CPU can get crushed. Interesting. Well, yeah, I guess it might be interesting to try to load up in when I do my Last of Us testing into a more demanding area, because I did play the game all the way through until I'm in like the downtown environment and you're fighting like 15 zombies. Okay, so the game is loaded in the background. Weird. There we go. So I did beat Jedi Outcast, which is the prequel to this game. This is the second, the sequel basically to Jedi Outcast. I really like Jedi Outcast. We played, me and my fiance Carla, we played that game all the way through to the end. She played for about a quarter of it or something like that. But some of the fight scenes in that game are just awesome and really cool animation. It's a pretty good story. Wasn't like the best Star Wars game ever, but it was pretty dang good. I enjoyed it a lot. Star Wars Jedi Survivor is compiling certain game files to optimize performance for the PC. Please wait until this is done. So, like I said, this is the first time loading into Jedi Survivor, so this is gonna might have to do some. Oh, Jedi Fallen Order. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's the right name of it. Jedi Fallen Order. Jedi Outcast was another Star Wars game that came out a long time ago, which I also played. But yeah, Jedi Fallen Order, I think is the right one. Let me double check. Yeah, Jedi Fallen Order is the one. And man, that is a good game. So we'll try turning on ray tracing. We'll see if we can do it. We'll just leave all these settings on default. Yeah. Ooh. All right, I'm gonna turn the speakers up to max. We can kind of hear it.
Seek a dangerous fugitive. This is no common anarchist, but a devotee of the treasonous Jedi Order. No! Look at this, a lightsaber.
I was alone for a long time. I was scared that they'd find out who I was, what I was.
And you're not alone. Not anymore.
Hey, BD1. I'm Cal.
I want to see if I can skip this for now,
I guess it's about time.
so we can get into the gameplay. Okay, so options. Yeah, the speakers on this aren't they're just like average. They're nothing special. So visually, we want to go. Can I go full screen? Right now we're at windowed full screen. How do I actually adjust any of these settings? Oh my goodness. So I click it. Maybe I can't change it. A and D is how you change it. So I want to see if I can do full screen. There we go. And I want it to be full resolution. There we go. Okay, so we're at 2560 by 1600. Graphics quality is set to epic. Ray tracing is enabled. Interesting, there's no DLSS option in here, in this as far as I can see. There's AMD Super Resolution 2. We do have VSync. We want to turn that off. We'll leave AMD FX Super Resolution 2 on quality. All right, so let's go back. It says press C to go back, but it's not doing anything. So let me see if can I click it? Okay, I pressed escape. We'll do Jedi Grand Master. No, I'm just kidding. We'll do Jedi Master. Forced interaction hints on, sure. Start new journey. Okay. Baka says this game only has FSR. Yeah, it looks like that. Okay, so we're hitting 64 FPS so far in this intro cinematic. 54, 59. Looks like we were captured. Our VRAM is only pulling 7 gigs. I love to see that. Our GPU temps are 66. We are not being CPU bound at all right now. Very low CPU utilization in this game. But we'll see once we get into the actual gameplay with enemies and everything, how much CPU utilization there is. Man, he looks depressed. Yeah, it looks like we're on Coruscant right now. There's the old Jedi Academy. This is not where you want to be as a Jedi. This game damages AMD's sponsored reputation. What resolution is this playing at? We're at 2560 by 1600 right now. With AMD FSR 2 enabled on quality. You want to see a Cal cameo in a new trilogy? That would be pretty cool. So I'm seeing our FPS drop down a bit. We're down to 48 FPS right now. 25 for our 1% lows. Our VRAM is still hanging in there at 6.9 gigs. Yeah, still 100% GPU utilization. And our temps on the CPU and GPU are great. I'm noticing that our 1% stutters just a little bit, you know, impacting the smoothness of the visuals here and there. even though we're doing 70 FPS, our 1% lows now are 17. This is certainly still playable, but ideally you want your 1% lows above 30 at least, typically, for a perfect visual appearance to the human eye, or near perfect. Ideally really above 60 for your 1% lows, but at least above 30 for it to be look movie smoothness level quality, And notice our VRAM jumped. We're now at 7.5 gigs. And I'm guessing that we're now becoming VRAM limited, which is probably why we're getting our 1% low stutters. All right, let me see if I can I change our settings? Visuals. Texture quality. Let's go to medium. All right, so we're setting our textures down to medium, and let's see if that impacts our 1% low stutters. I've reset our FPS counter, and yeah, wow. Interesting. Our VRAM went up to 7.7 gigs, but the smoothness seemed to go up. Okay, so now we're at 43. Yeah, we're definitely running into some VRAM limitations still, even on medium here. Let's see if we jump down to let's see here. If we do AMD FSR, is that going to lower our VRAM requirements? I think so. Let's try performance. Okay, so that jumped us down from 7.5 gigs on the VRAM down below 7. Now we're at 7. Our 1% lows are now at 33. Our FPS is at 63 on average now. So this is going to be a good visual gaming experience, what we're seeing right now.
You can't treat us like this. Yeah, that's how.
34 for 1% lows. 7.2 gigs on the VRAM still, so the VRAM is still pushing near the cap, which again is not ideal.
Not according to the propaganda.
When the terrorists threatened the world,
Can't believe I'm about to meet a senator.
Okay. Nice. Okay, so I think that gives you an idea of what you can expect, at least roughly, for Jedi Survivor. I kind of want to play through the game a little bit and get a save that's further along in the game. But yeah, you could definitely play Jedi Survivor with this GPU, but you're going to need to be willing to fiddle with the settings to get everything to be just how you want it. I'd like to show you the webcam. I'd like to show you the webcam as well, and then we're going to go into our summary of everything that we've learned about the laptop and my overall thoughts on it so far. All right, so here's the webcam. Hello. You can tell it's a very low resolution webcam. We do have a webcam light, indicator light up at the top here, so you can tell when the webcam is activated. We also can disable the webcam. I'll try disabling the webcam now. There it went, so no webcam anymore. And we'll flip it back on. So there's the webcam right there. If we go and take a picture, very nice. And there is, I believe this is not a Windows Hello. Nothing available Windows Hello. So it's just a regular camera. And the webcam is decent quality. Just your average webcam for a gaming laptop. It really is not amazing. It's low resolution. It's a bit grainy. It's like your average gaming lap webcam. I would say that there are definitely a lot better webcams out there. But this will work just for doing your Skype call so people can see your face, generally your expressions, which is what matters, I guess. So yeah. All right. Oh, I didn't show you guys. Sorry. There we go. I'm an idiot. I had the wrong camera active. So there we go. All right. So there's the camera. So there's the indicator light at the top. And then you can see the image quality. You can quite clearly see detail on my face and all that. This is pretty good lighting though. And so you can also see the detail around the Lumix camera and logo there. It's not super detailed, but it'll work. And people will be able to see your face and you'll be able to do video calls and all of that. But the webcam is nothing amazing. So let's go ahead and move on to a summary of everything we've learned about the Legion Pro 5. Okay, so. Whew. Here it is. Okay, so the Legion Pro 5. Is it worth buying? I think it kind of is, but there's a lot of complex questions that are going into this purchase. Okay, so first of all, now that I've had a lot more time to test a ton of different laptops, this is like laptop 19 for me that I've reviewed and tested a ton of games on this year for this new generation. And I've basically settled on the opinion that if you're going to get with an RTX 4050, 4060, or 4070, you got to go into that purchase understanding what VRAM is and how that affects your gameplay with Full HD and QHD resolutions. Full HD resolution, you're typically going to be okay at 8 gigs of VRAM. But even at Full HD resolution, you're going to still run into VRAM limitations. At QHD, it's going to be pretty severe in some situations where you're gonna have to maybe even reduce your whole resolution down or utilize DLSS or AMD FSR to lower your rendered resolution so that you don't have severe stuttering when you run out of VRAM. So that's gonna be a big deal because the Pro 5, as far as I know, only comes with a QHD resolution display. There are probably gonna be Legion 5 versions that come with Full HD plus resolution displays. But this leads me to recommend to users, because of the VRAM limitations, unless you go up to an RTX 4080 or 4090, generally speaking, it's better to pair the 4050, 4060, and 4070 with Full HD panels, simply because of the VRAM problems in the newer games. It'll just be way less of a problem for you as a user. That said, if you're an advanced user and you really want a QHD display and you're okay with turning the resolution or textures down or adjusting DLSS or FSR to make it all work, so you don't have the 1% lows in those games, it's no problem. You can do it. You can get a QHD display and have a great time in the titles that you don't run into VRAM limitations, and you can tweak the titles that do have the VRAM limitations to get by them and still have good performance. Overall, I like the build quality. You've got the metal top lid of this laptop. You've got the metal keyboard deck, and you got some metal on the bottom. It's a lot of metal on this with some plastic in between mixed in. The build quality feels very rigid and firm and sturdy. Taking the laptop apart was fairly easy. It only took a couple minutes to unscrew all the screws and pop it open. Upgrades on the inside are fairly easy to access. Also, you have access to your memory as well as the 2 SSD slots. And if you want to repaste, it's only a heat pipe, so it's possible. The heat pipes, the paste job appears to have been botched or messed up on this unit. The CPU going up to 100 degrees Celsius almost instantly in almost all CPU heavy loads was very disappointing to me. And it leads me to wonder if yeah, it leads me to wonder if Lenovo just didn't do a very good job from the factory for that CPU only. The GPU almost always had superbly awesome temperatures. Almost no problem ever with the GPU temps. Going above even 70, 75, almost never went above 70. It was usually in the 60s in most of the games and titles that we played. Now, the CPU performance for the Ryzen 7 7745HX CPU was really good. It was very competitive with Intel and other 8-core, 16-thread parts. We got 17,800 in Cinebench R23, which it's very good for a laptop under $1,500. That's phenomenal. We also saw very good performance on battery mode. So battery mode, we still got over 15,000 for Cinebench R23, and it was only pulling 45 watts to the CPU, and it was still pushing that much performance. That's phenomenal. So if you need a laptop that can handle CPU heavy tasks when on battery mode, this is going to be a really good option. Now, of course, you'd want to get one that has a CPU paste job that was done properly, and that's going to help our temperatures. I imagine that this was just, I got unlucky. This is what happens when you don't get review units. You just buy laptops that are regular laptops from manufacturers to review like I do, and they don't get pre-tested or pre-selected. So, and obviously this level of testing that we're doing in these live streams is beyond what most reviewers do anyway. So we can identify these problems that users would face if they get the laptop for a long time and they run into these kinds of issues, like the paste job being bad. And that's something that usually should be found very quickly. But sadly, a lot of reviewers don't really check that stuff very well. Now, the ports selection on this guy, really good. You got 4 USB-As, you got 3 USB-Cs, you got an Ethernet port, headset port. There's not much you could really ask for, maybe besides, I mean, you could say you'd rather have maybe a mini display port instead of one of the USB-Cs, but I think most people would rather have another USB-C. So I like the port selection. I kind of wish they had a full-size SD card slot. If I were to criticize it, that would probably be maybe take one of the USB-As off or USB-Cs and put a full-size SD card slot. That would be better in my opinion. But overall, the port selection is quite good. The display quality, a QHD plus, so 16:10 aspect ratio, 356 nits brightness, 930:1 contrast ratio. It's very bright, it's very vibrant, it's very responsive. It's just not as vibrant as the competition. We only had 92% sRGB, 72% P3 and Adobe RGB. If you were to bump those up because my tools tends to underestimate, then it's closer to 100% sRGB and about 80% Adobe or P3 color gamut, it's a good display, especially for $1,500. It's just not as colorful and bright and vibrant as some of the other displays in certain laptops, like in the Pulse 15. It's 100% Adobe RGB or close to. It's a higher color gamut, but overall, this is still a good display, especially for the price point. The QHD 240Hz display is supposed to be brighter and more vibrant, though. So if you do get an option to get that display option in your laptop in the Legion Pro 5, then just know that it'll be brighter and it won't really be more colorful, though. So that's the other downside. I think the Lenovo lineup just doesn't really offer that colorful display that designers and video gamers might want, because a lot of other manufacturers this year, especially Asus, are pushing just really high color gamut displays that are just very vibrant and punchy and more gorgeous, especially the mini LED options. So in some ways, I think Lenovo is being outclassed in the display department, but not necessarily for the money. This is a good display for the money. Giant thumbs up for that part of the laptop. The keyboard, awesome keyboard, feels great, love the layout. The backlight options are good. They illuminate everything you need, and it's an effective layout. You've got all these secondary functions. You got a full-size number pad, full-size arrow keys. I love the keyboard on the Lenovo series. Giant thumbs up there. The touchpad. I had an issue getting the touchpad to click properly. The physical click, it would click physically, but not actually click on the screen. Another little minor thing that could really annoy you, and it's likely only on this unit, which probably means I have to return this unit regardless of if I were to repaste the CPU or not. But typically speaking, I would say that the The touchpad issue is probably not going to affect most users. It's probably this touchpad in particular that's faulty, though it could be a driver issue. And if it is a driver issue, it's going to be fixable. And though in the meantime, it could affect a lot of users. What else do we want to talk about? Let's talk about performance in actual games. The vast majority of games out there, you're not going to run into VRAM limitations, but the newer games, you will, right? That's the thing. And you're pushing the QHD 2560 by 1600 resolution. It just makes me want to recommend a full HD display for gaming, not only because you get more FPS, but also because you're not going to run into those VRAM problems nearly as often. But in terms of QHD gaming, if you're willing to tweak the settings to get to the right settings, you're going to have a great experience on this laptop. But it just feels like this laptop, out of the box, a lot of casual users are going to be like, I just bought this laptop for $1,500 and it can't even play Jedi Survivor. What the heck is going on? It's stuttering like crazy. How do I fix this? You know, it's going to be very challenging for casual people who don't understand how to modify their settings or what's going on in the background. So if you buy this laptop, know that you're going to have to change the VRAM down or maybe lower the resolution or lower your DLSS or your FSR settings to be able to get that playable, smooth frame rates. And if you're willing to make those changes, this is a good option for you, I think. All right. Even with the QHD, like if I was buying a laptop, I would still get a QHD. If I had $1,500, I would get a QHD display still. And I would just go through and tweak the settings to make sure I had good playable frame rates in whatever games that I'm playing, including those really high demanding games. So I don't think that's going to be too much of a problem. Now for battery life, this has the new Ryzen chip, and it's an 8-core, 16-part chip. And I have not been able to do detailed battery testing, but I'm confident that you can get in the 5 to 7 hours range, ballpark at least, for battery life for web browsing. And probably more than that if you're doing like idling with Wi-Fi and Bluetooth off and brightness down to like the halfway point or something. So probably more like 8 hours with idling or more. It's obviously going to be a bit more power efficient than a lot of the Intel chips out there because of the Ryzen process being at a smaller nanometer. And the overall performance of this thing, I think it's good. It's just the CPU paste job and the touchpad issue with my unit would make me want to return this one that I got. But that doesn't necessarily mean all of the Lenovo Pro 5s out there are going to have those same issues. And I think likely they won't, as a matter of fact. I think most of them will be just fine. So I don't think that necessarily just because mine had those issues, it should sway you from buying necessarily. But I would check other reviews and make sure that other reviewers are not seeing similar temperature issues to what I'm having. Because we saw 102 degrees in dead space, like just nonstop, which is not good. And that's with the default fan profiles and all the settings set to however it's supposed to be. All right. Okay. Checking chat to see about feedback. All right. Gamers aren't looking for the best of the best displays. I don't know about that argument. I think a lot of gamers that are more premium are. When I game, I want to have a colorful display. I want a 100% Adobe RGB and P3 color gamut because the games look more vibrant, like noticeably. Now, if you're on a budget, yeah, you don't really need to push. That's a lower priority than your CPU and GPU performance. You want better CPU and GPU, and then if you can get a higher quality display, then you can spend the money on that. But yeah, I would say gamers do want higher end displays if they can get them. WTD Life says, my Legion Pro 7i 4080 battery drops drastically when I play games in custom mode. Do you know something about it? Well, so you need to know that gaming on a laptop will always kill your battery life way faster. Even if you optimized your gaming laptop really, really well, usually you're not going to get past an hour and a half to maybe 2 hours of battery life for gaming on the go. And it'll be at lower FPS, like 30 FPS or maybe 40 FPS, using like the NVIDIA battery boost technology. Gaming laptops are really designed to be plugged in when you're playing the games. If you're looking for something to game and play on the go, for an extended period of time, that's when you look for something more like the Steam Deck. That's a handheld that's designed to run on an ultra low voltage processor. And we'll have even better versions of the Steam Deck with the new AMD chips coming up. So that's what I would look for if you're looking for a handheld portable gaming. WTD Life says, but I am charging it. Oh, so you're saying you're charging it and your battery life is still dropping. In that scenario, that usually means your power adapter is not pushing out enough wattage to your laptop to keep it topped up and to power all the components. So in that scenario, I would say to confirm that, you might have a bad power adapter, or they may have undersupplied the power adapter wattage for the power needed for the laptop in that scenario. So which is not good. I don't think we did not run into that issue with this laptop, but we also are pushing a lot lower wattage components. You said you had a 4080 in yours, which means it's a 175 watt GPU, and we're only doing like 105 watts to the GPU in our unit, so it's not nearly as demanding. Poison Milk says, I purchased the Intel version of the Legion and I ran into driver's issue running Battlefield 2042. Couldn't fix it after trying any available method to me except for reinstalling Windows, and that was sad. Oh, that's too bad. I'm guessing it was a network issue where it wouldn't connect, something like that. Like if I were to guess. WTD Life, I see many people have this problem. I don't know how to solve it. If you can record a video and email me the video of, like, I don't know, you playing the games for an extended period of time, everything's plugged in, and then the battery life, the battery going down to like 50% or something. But if you could record a whole video, like a time lapse of it, and send it to me, just GizmoSlip@gmail. I take a look at it and see if it appears to be something wrong with the laptop itself. Because we'll put it this way: I will have a Legion Pro 7i review coming up very soon. So actually, you don't have to record that. I should have that on Friday. So if I run into that issue, then you can know that it's a consistent issue throughout all of the Legion Pro 7i series and needs to be addressed by Lenovo. There's two ways to primarily address that issue. One is to reduce the amount of power the laptop pulls, or two, you got to upgrade the power adapter to push more watts to the laptop, so that way your battery doesn't drain. Fatty Samus, what's a good Ultrabook for graphic design? I've actually got an Ultrabook review that I'll be coming out with here soon. I've got the Yoga Book 9i. That's dual OLED displays. It's all display for the laptop, keyboard, and display. And it just came in the mail today. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Best Buy sent it over to me, and they asked me to review it. So it'll actually be a sponsored live stream coming up. I'm not sure when I'll be able to do it. I think they said June 1st. So I might have to wait like a month, even though they already got it to me, which kind of sucks. Anyway, Poison Milk Bob says, it keeps telling me the GPU hang detected, but DirectX and the driver are all fine, so I couldn't spot the issue. There was also a random crashing playing Apex. Interesting, Poison Milk. I don't know. That sounds really weird. But yeah, I would do like a clean install of the NVIDIA drivers in that scenario if you're getting crashing in games. It could also be that you have a bad GPU if you're getting regular crashing when other people are not. Baka says, what do you think stopping the Lenovo putting 4080 and 4090 into a 15-inch? Well, it's just that 16-inch is almost the same size as a 15-inch, so they just don't probably care about doing that. Anyway, I think that covers everything about the Pro 5. Can I recommend it? Yes, as long as the issues that I encountered with the CPU paste job and the touchpad are just affecting my unit and not everyone else. Then yeah, I can recommend this guy. But again, I can primarily recommend it to users that are willing to fiddle with settings, to deal with the VRAM limitations. I don't know why NVIDIA decided to sell their laptops 4050, 4060, and 4070 without having, I don't know, 10, 12 gigs of VRAM. I feel like all of them should be having 12 gigs of VRAM, and the 4080 should have 16 gigs of VRAM, and the 4090 should have like 24 gigs of VRAM. That's what I feel like. even if you had to pay $50 or $100 more for the same laptop, at least then you'd be able to play at QHD resolutions with no issues on all of the different laptops. Like the 4050 really can play QHD games if it had 12 gigs of VRAM. No problem. It's a powerful GPU. It's just being, the 4050, 4060, and 4070, all three of them are capable of QHD gaming, especially on medium settings. No problem. They could probably play literally every single game on medium settings above 60 FPS probably if they had more VRAM, but they don't. So it just sucks. That's the really sucky part, and definitely a huge problem and a huge mistake, I think, by NVIDIA being so, I guess, I don't know if it's money grubbing, not wanting to put that extra VRAM in there, or wanting to, like, I guess, what's it called when they built in, not inferiority, but like a built-in problem so that then you're forced to upgrade down the line. There's a term for it. I can't remember the term for it off the top of my head, but it's like built-in obsolescence, I think is what it's called. Obsolescence, where they're basically planning to make you upgrade by not giving you a good product now that'll be better and more future-proof. And I think that's probably why NVIDIA decided to go 8 gigs of VRAM on the 4050, 4060, and 4070. And it just sucks. Like, why did they do that? Forced obsolescence. Yeah, that's what it is. Planned or forced obsolescence. Yeah, and I think it sucks because I just really wish they had at least done 10. 12 would have really put them in a good spot for the 4050, 4060, 4070. 16 would have been great on the 4080. 24 for the 4090. But, yeah. And I cannot say your name. And her dude Takar says, hi, are the RTX 4060 cards worth it? Should I save up and buy a 3060 at 140 watts? Well, I think the 4060 card is better than the 3060 because the 3060 only has 6 gigs of VRAM. So it's even more limited. But at 1080p, they're both going to be able to play most games just fine. But in general, I would definitely recommend 4060 over a 3060. LSP says, in Australia, SCAR 16 only has an IPS panel. Does it mean it may be better to get a Legion Pro 7i than a SCAR 16 in this case? I think that depends on what you care about for the other feature sets, including what CPU it comes with, because the SCAR series usually comes with a better CPU. The port selection, the Legion series has a better port selection. There's a lot of factors to consider when weighing the Legion series versus the SCAR series, more than just the display. But even if the SCAR series only comes with an IPS panel, it may be brighter and more colorful with a higher color gamut. So you got to, because it usually, I think it would still be a Nebula display. So it's at least 500 nits with 100% Adobe and P3 color gamut. So that's going to be better than the best display coming from Lenovo Legion. So that's just going to depend on what you're looking for. Stardom says, what do you think about the 4050, 4060, and 4070 GPUs being voltage limited and never going above 100 watts despite being advertised as having higher power limits? My thoughts on that are, it's silly that NVIDIA ever advertised them to go above 105 watts, let's say, because we're basically seeing, or maybe 115. We've seen 115 in some games. They're basically maxed at 115 watts. So if your laptop can go to 115 watts, you've basically got a max power, 4050, 4060, or 4070. I'm not sure, but maybe the 4070 can go higher than 115. But I've done a lot of tests now on the 4050 and 4060. And we've, even on this one, with this 4060, we're not seeing more than 105 watts or 110, 115 watts almost ever. And so there's almost no point in getting a super thick, big, beefy 4060 when a Zephyrus G16 can go to 115 watts too. So in terms of like, in the past, there's been a big push for people to, they want to get the best performance, the best money bang for the buck. Well, in the 40, 50, 40, 60, 40, 70 series, going with the big, beefy, thicker laptop that can go theoretically to the 140 watt power limit like the Legion Pro 5, it's not really relevant anymore. It's just, the Zephyrus G16 can be just as powerful as the thicker, beefier cooling system laptops. And so for me, it makes a lot more sense to go with the thicker, beefier cooling system laptops when you're talking 4080 and 4090, and you're wanting to push up to the 175 watt power limits. And that's when you're getting serious bang for the buck and massive performance improvements. So that's probably what I would say regarding that whole thing, is that if you're going to go with the 4050, 4060, or 4070, you don't have to be shy about trying to get a super thick laptop. You can go with the medium thick laptops like the Zephyrus lineup and not feel like you're missing out, I guess. You know, like if you want to go with the Legion Pro because it's got a bigger keyboard, deeper key travel, a full-size number pad, or whatever other reasons, more ports, then that's a valid reason to go with the Legion Pro 5 over the Zephyrus series, but not because it can theoretically go to 140 watts. It's only going to go to 105, 110 watts, just like the Zephyrus G16 or G14 anyway. So the actual in-game performance should be very similar. The main difference might be the temperatures on the GPU and CPU. But again, we had terrible temperatures on the CPU in this Legion Pro 5 because of, I think, a bad CPU paste job. So, okay. All right, 4060 MSI Katana or the Asus ROG Advantage Edition laptop. Between those two, well, I like the ROG Advantage Edition laptop because of all the other features it has, but the Katana is probably going to outperform it. So you got to trade off there. Do you want more performance, or do you want to have like a QHD display with nicer build quality and nicer keyboard feel, and maybe a better ports selection on the Asus? So, but the Katana MSI 4060 is probably going to be, you know, significantly more FPS in a lot of titles. So it really depends on what you're looking for. Though I think the VRAM, doesn't the Advantage Edition laptop have a lot more VRAM too? Anyway, we're talking about a lot of different things right now. I'm going to go ahead and end the live stream for now. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It was kind of interesting discussion at the end. All your guys' questions were really great. Thank you so much for all the questions. And yeah, so Anarud says, I'm subscribed and I'll be subscribed for life. Thanks for the valuable input. Hope your channel grows tenfold. You too, man. Thank you so much for your support. And thank you so much for everyone that stopped by the live stream. Drop a like if you enjoyed the live stream, and be sure to subscribe and come back for more. See you in the next one.